So, welcome to Emotional Support Water Bottle with Hannah and Ailish.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Ailish. You may have noticed that things are looking a little more professional around here with our new cover art.
Yeah.
Should we share a little bit about it?
We want, I guess so. We're just not we're not influencers.
We're not influencers. We're still too self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really humiliating to
be
take
outside downtown. Well, it's like a little downtown in my town, and
we don't have the budget to go in a studio. No. Okay, we can't hire a
honestly,
photographer.
the lighting ended up being really good.
Yeah, it was.
And the background color,
I thought the background worked out.
Good.
Yeah, I like it, honestly. But it would have been less embarrassing had we had a person photographing us instead of us with our tripod and a timer. Every time someone would walk by, a little part of us died.
And there were people walking by, riding down a freaking alley. Yeah. Like, come on.
And we were across from a restaurant, so whatever. But you know what? We did it. We did what we had to do. And it was so hot out, too.
It was
that was
hot. Like sweat rolling down our backs.
I know, literally. And then we're like, we need to get closer to each other.
The steam is coming out of our heads.
But yeah, if you haven't noticed it yet, please go ahead and take a look. And while you're there, go ahead and follow us and make sure you tell your friends. We're also putting our stickers out and about. I got a haircut yesterday, and I gave one to my stylist, and she put it right on her stand, right where everybody can see it.
That's nice. That's why you left. She threw it in the trash.
Ripped it off.
That's nice, though. I know my mom's got hers on her water bottle. We need to put them on our water bottle.
Seriously, I don't even have any stickers on mine. That could be my very first sticker.
Mine have all fallen off.
Well, maybe because I did order those new ones, I think those are kind of like more fun to just have on our water bottles. We can put them. Yeah, so stay tuned, guys, and just keep a lookout. You know, we're gonna be leaving them places. There's QR codes that you can scan and make it really easy to find us. So I'm anticipating our listenership to skyrocket.
And maybe if you leave us a nice review 5 stars, we could send you one.
Yeah, I mean, a couple, you know? Sure. If you write us a review, just also send us a little DM and tell us, and we'll send you some. Absolutely. But don't overwhelm us, guys. You know, we're only a 2-man show.
We don't have a team.
Yeah, so. It's literally just us. Well, I did want to say we had some breaking news today, and I know we're still a little sore from the Vanderpump stuff, but this to me was, shall I say, the final nail in the coffin, in my opinion, for it not to come back.
Right.
Was Tom putting this lawsuit forward towards Ariana. And I literally don't even understand this because I guess people can sue each other for anything. But
I guess I don't know the logistics. Like, if I go through my husband's phone that we both pay for. I mean, I know but they were together at the time, and like you have to assume that it's like I don't know, like, is my phone not my husband's property? And you know what I mean?
And
like,
if you share passcodes and have that, like, if you're in a relationship, I just feel like, you know, that shouldn't be a breach of privacy.
Right.
Or like even...
Or in this, I mean... I don't even know what to think. Like, I don't know.
And I guess it was with the, you know, seeing the explicit video.
Right.
But I just also don't understand this. How has he not been fully sued
Right.
for taking that without Rachel's knowledge in the first place.
Yeah, it's like she couldn't, other parties wouldn't have been able to see it had he not taken the video.
Right.
So I don't know.
I feel like
that's
not going to go anywhere. I guess it's just weird because, like, even if you went to the bathroom and I went through your, or like you had told me the passcode and I went through your phone.
Right.
Could you sue me for that?
I don't know. I mean,
like,
I guess
does that have legs?
But what if I had nudes on there and you screenshot them and like
that's true.
Acquired them?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that like? I mean, that seems suable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's just murky because, like you said,
they're in a
relationship and she caught him in a lie that was detrimental to their relationship.
Right.
I just don't think that lawsuit has
any
merit.
It's insane. I mean, I think at this point, it's so hard too because it's so public and we know so many details. Yeah. It's like, obviously, this is stupid. Like, we have all this history.
Right.
But if you're some judge wherever and not paying attention to that, I don't know.
How do you, like, not take into consideration some of the history? Like, obviously, in a court of law, you wouldn't take into consideration the entire length of the show.
Right.
But you do have to take into consideration their relationship history.
I would think. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know either. But I just feel like, this whole season was basically rallying around Tom and trying to get him, like, he's on this bandwagon of forgiveness and trying to show Ariana that he has remorse and
she didn't have anything to worry about with the lawsuit.
And even like in the reunion, he's like, in so many words, he was like, I can't believe that she's brought her into this. Like, there's no reason to bring Ariana into this. She didn't do anything. Like, that's gross. And now he's doing the same thing. Like,
it's like, he couldn't get more despicable, and yet he somehow did.
I know. The only reason that would make sense that he's doing it is just to
I'm wondering if he's going to get in big trouble, and that's why he's doing this.
It has to be for his own personal gain. Yeah, like, he's doing it to try and make it seem like, no, like, I wasn't the one fully in the wrong here. Like, it's a deflecting to kind of protect him.
I know, because that's the only thing I could think of. I'm like, I wonder if he is, like, getting in trouble with all this.
There's just, after this, I don't see a world where they can film. I mean, there's no way they can film together. Mm-hmm. Like, even legally, I feel like they wouldn't.
Right.
So we already thought it was over, so I guess
here we go.
Yeah. But it's just, I mean, and like you have said before, especially like you, and I know you're already like checked out, but like you fully put like all those years into the show, like so many other fans did, and like I watched
living for this show.
But like I wasn't religiously watching it as it came out every season, and it's just disappointing because you get to know these people, and then this has just been a complete like cluster of worst case scenarios.
I know, it's just been a mess. And then I saw Sheena gave her statement.
Oh yeah, I just
and
watched
it's like,
that.
You look so dumb. Like, you spent a whole season crying over this man, and he keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, she was like, I told him not to, make me look stupid or whatever, and here I am. Well, I mean, we knew that was coming, Sheena. Bye. If it wasn't this way, it would have been another way.
Her podcast like came up and like I think on Spotify like recommended or something, and I was like, not interested.
It keeps doing that too. Like, I hate when Spotify does that. I like, I used to listen, especially through
like,
the Sandoval stuff. Yeah, and I'm like, I haven't listened to that in at least 6 months, probably. Like, I don't know why it keeps popping up.
Right.
And I can't say like, stop showing me this. But whatever. I don't know. Well, I just, we needed to talk about that because that just happened today. And it's just so messy. Like, can you even imagine being involved in all that?
Ends.
I know. And Ariana's literally doing so much. Like, she's doing Love Island. She's going to start Chicago again. Like, how she's spread so thin.
I know. And then to deal with all this bull crap.
I know.
It's so stupid. Like, it's so stupid.
I know. It seriously is. Like, the worst thing that ever happened to her, which obviously now has become one of, you know, the best things career-wise and stuff, but it's just like it does not stop. Like, just when you think she can breathe for a second, it's like, oh no, another dagger. Yeah. God, it's so disgusting.
I know.
What else? Oh, just another thing. I guess we won't talk about it right this second, but just thinking about like the OC stuff, I did finally watch the episode. And I saw with the Jenn Pedranti.
I don't know how to say it.
But kind of like that. But she, in this episode, they talked a lot about the financial stuff. And then there was a thing that came out, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but about like the judge ordered her ex to give her the support that she needed. And it was like over $4,000 for like the kids and rent and stuff.
I know he had to pay for her living. That is like, that when I was watching that episode, I'm like, wow. I'm like, you know, like you get this divorce or whatever, and then he has to just pay for where you live. Like,
I know.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that is fair in a way, but it's just wild to actually think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And but then it's like it gets real murky because he then, I don't know what happened with his job with her family company, but she said he wasn't working there anymore. So like obviously his income has changed, or maybe he already got another job. I have no idea. But then does she own that yoga studio?
I thought she did, but now it's like sounds like she doesn't, and that she just teaches.
Right, but I could have swore that she owned it.
I know, because it was like, but maybe she didn't. But I just remember the whole thing where when Tamara was shutting down their studio, and she's like, "Well, we're still in business."
Right,
but now that I'm thinking about it, she was just kind of like, "We're still doing good."
Maybe it's some kind of partnership or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But I mean. And I don't know. I wish so bad that full Bravo financials were public. Like, I want to know full on numbers.
I know, because to me, it's like you're working for like 3 or 4 months and you're making a few or more 100,000. Like, I just don't understand.
Was last season her first season? Okay, that's what I thought too. So she's not making like a ton yet.
Right.
But she went up significantly from last year. So, yeah, I don't know. And she has like a ton of kids too. Like, that's what's so wild to me is like you literally cannot be a single or separated person living in Orange County with multiple children. Like, how are you making ends meet?
Right.
Literally, like.
They're not.
I know. And then it was just crazy, like her talking about, like, we were in this one house and then the owner sold it. And then I went, Gina helped me get this new house and now I'm getting evicted. It's like, what the heck? Like, that is just horrible. And then she's getting like an extra, I can't remember the exact number. It was like over 1,000, maybe like 1,500, 1,700 in spousal support. But then, you know, with spousal support, if you get remarried, that goes away. So like, is she going to want to marry Ryan?
Right. And then she's like, I have to borrow money from my dad and you. And I was like, so they not live together? Like, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, they don't, I guess. I just thought that was kind of interesting, and we just saw that in the episode, and then like it was decided this week. So that's like a long time that she's been like, what has she been doing from when that first episode was filmed.
Unless she's doing like brand deals in the meantime.
Yeah, maybe she is. I don't think.
That's like, you can't talk about that.
Right. I know. Can't break the fourth wall. Yeah, man. Things are expensive out there. I can't imagine. Like, even if you have 2 kids, like, if you're not super rich or have a dual income, like.
Right. I know.
Jeez. We're just that Ohio living over here. And we're struggling.
It just seems like, I don't know. Like, if you can't, you might have to move. You know what I mean?
I was thinking that too. But I guess it's hard too, because then, okay, do I uproot my whole family, like my kids, and they're in schools? And I mean, that is really hard, but yeah, like cost of living.
Can't afford to live.
Yeah. And because where is she from? I don't remember.
I don't know.
It wasn't California though. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Anyway, we need to talk about Maxxxine.
I know. Oh, I forgot to, when we were watching it, did you see those little like allegations against Mia Goth?
No.
Against one of the, I was trying to figure out who it was, because he said it was a scene where he was laying in the grass and or was like laying down in the grass. I'm wondering if it was, remember, in that alleyway?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that guy or what, because we hadn't seen the movie, but I thought it was just an extra. But then that never really, like, that scene never really happened. But anyway, then I guess she like, for real kicked him and stuff. Oh. And then after they said she wasn't going to, and then he was like mad about it, and then I guess she like followed him apparently into like somewhere else, and she's like, "You're a big baby, you're a nothing, nobody's gonna believe you."
Was she still in character?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I feel like
Method.
her and Shia LaBeouf, maybe they're cut from the same cloth.
Can you literally imagine their household?
Yeah, where it's just like over the top theatrics all the time.
And one of them's always working on a new role. So it's like,
who am I married to? I'm married to Maxxxine now. But I kind of like believed it a little bit, because just knowing how Shia is, and they're like together, or maybe together. I don't know if they're still together, but I was like,
no, I didn't see that, but I wouldn't.
I know, like, I kind of believe it, but like, it's annoying, but at the same time,
I mean, I guess
go work, do something else, I guess.
Right, like I mean, I know it's so like, we should all be in non-toxic work environments and treated like humans. Yeah, we should be 100%, but like, people don't always get treated the best at their job. Right. Like, whether it's Hollywood or whether it's
like, obviously
corporate
they shouldn't be
America.
Physically abusive.
Yeah. But it's like, if you can't take the heat, sometimes you gotta.
I know. I'm like, Mia Goth can kick me.
Right. Like, I'm sure people would pay for that. Right. So, but anyway.
Yeah, it was, I liked it, but it just didn't like, I can't remember what I rated it in my letterbox. I might have done like a 3.5 or a 3. Like, I think I would rewatch it because of like the aesthetic and like all the pop culture references from the 80s and stuff, and just to like look at it all. But it was like, Maxxxine wasn't a main, like, she was almost like a side character, and I was really hoping like this descent into madness, but then she's like, I was okay with her still becoming famous at the end, but then it was like, what did we do to get here other than she was like part of a big scandal?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, when we left the theater, we were like letting it marinate a little bit, and like, same, like, I enjoyed it. It was a fun watch,
right? But
I just felt that the storyline wasn't
all there. Yeah. It was like there was too many storylines.
Or they tried to do too many things, or it wasn't fully developed.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, like, because if you haven't watched the movie and want to, you might want to just skip ahead, because, like, we're just going to talk about it and probably spoil some stuff for you. But it's they brought in, because it was based in the 80s, so they brought in stuff with the Night Stalker. So I thought we were leaning into the Night Stalker part of it. Right. And then the whole... oh my God, I almost pushed him off the freaking couch.
You'd have been fine.
But I thought we were leaning into the Night Stalker thing, and when these people were randomly... like ending up dead, I'm like, oh, it's the Night Stalker.
I know, like I thought they were gonna go like all these deaths just that were around her were the Night Stalker, but then
there was like
she thought it was something else. Yeah, and like I just felt like I thought it was gonna be what we weren't or like. I don't know.
Or you mentioned you thought she was going to have that like full on almost dissociation where like she's actually murdering these people, but she doesn't realize.
Right. And like she thinks it's the Night Stalker and then it turns out to be her and she's like doing all this because she thinks she's being blackmailed.
Right. Which like that's general storyline isn't like anything new, but the way that it ended up being was
like when
so
it
bizarre.
Wasn't actually that at all. Yeah. Like I know it was just kind of like I don't know. It just was a little disappointing. Yeah. And it's like the Maxxine and X is so spunky and like free, and then it wasn't her at all. And obviously she went through like a trauma.
Yeah, but I wish that they'd leaned into that more then.
Right, because you got like the little bit of flashbacks where she'd see like Pearl here, like, but
like, why did we even get that?
Right,
because
it didn't really affect her. Other than, I mean,
it wasn't pertinent to the storyline, really. Right. And then, so at the end of X, we saw like her dad was the one that was the preacher on the television. Right. So then the protagonist or antagonist is the bad guy. Ends up being her dad. It's not the Night Stalker at all. Her dad is killing all these people, and then he has this bizarro cult.
Right, and then we were even like, wait, is this actually her dad or her cult leader dad? Like that was almost like. I mean, like, they were saying it was her dad, but then when he started getting in the cult stuff, we're like, wait, is he really murky. The dad?
Right, yeah. I guess that was just almost a little too, like, kitschy for me. It just... And, I mean, the whole thing is kind of campy, you know? But that was really just too, like, okay, the other two I felt like had real plot lines. Right. And this one just felt like... it was kind of a mess.
I know. It was like doing too much.
Yeah.
Like all that effort that was put into the background, which was really cool. But then like it didn't do anything.
I know. I mean, but like you said, it was fun to watch. Aesthetically, it looked good. It was fun to see the different pop culture references from the 80s and all that stuff. Like I liked that. Or when she was on, like we basically didn't see much of her on the Puritan movie set either, and that was supposed to be her big rise to fame. So it was just weird how that was kind of just thrown away.
I know it was like so I don't know, I was like pretty disappointed, I'd say.
Yeah,
but I still liked watching it. Like it was kind of like a weird thing. Like it was fun to look at, and like Kevin Bacon did really good. But that was even like
that was a weird character.
It was, or like we should have did more with it than, or like you almost wanted him to be like a hallucination.
Yeah,
it was just,
and it was. Now I'm just thinking about that too. Like Kevin Bacon almost, because he's like this private investigator, and he almost starts out as like a little like side thing. It was like, oh, Kevin Bacon, what a surprise. And then he almost turns into a main character for a while.
For his death.
Yeah, and then it's like he has this whole plot line that's running through with Maxxine's dad, and then they end up killing him, but like that basically didn't have any effect on Maxxine's dad at all.
No, it was so weird. I know, it almost could have been like I think it would have been cool if they would have made him like just like a stalking fan and like adding to her like going crazy thing,
right?
Which
like,
they didn't actually do, but that's what they should have did.
I know. If we rewrote the whole thing, but I do. But if he was like one that was obsessed with like her adult films and stuff. And she's like, I'm trying to get away from that life.
Right.
Like,
I don't want to be associated with what happened.
Because he's this kind of skeezy looking guy. Like, that would have been... I mean, we just...
I know. And I don't know if they didn't want to do that because Pearl was kind of like a descent into madness. And they did. But I think Maxxine and Pearl like parallel each other.
I know.
So I think you still could have did that. Like Maxxine actually got what she wanted to be famous where Pearl didn't get to. And I think we still could have had that type of ending. But the getting there was just like...
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I did appreciate that like all three movies were so different.
Yeah, that was fun.
And they took on a completely different time period. Mm-hmm. All of them aesthetically look different.
I know. It's fun to like see like what order people like it in.
Yeah.
And it's just funny just to see that because they are all so different.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like they were all fun to watch. They were all enjoyable, entertaining, and like, I don't know, like we said last episode, like Pearl basically isn't even a horror in my opinion. And then Maxxine kind of, I mean, X is like a more traditional like slasher almost. Mm-hmm. And then this one is like the campy horror
crime.
Film. Yeah.
Noir.
Yeah. Like really like a campy crime noir.
Like that, yeah, like that Miami Vice like
because there's the two police officers.
Yeah, it's like a whole there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun.
It was fun.
I don't regret seeing it at all. No. Like, it was still good.
And I think that, like, in a year or something, it'd be fun to watch them all together again.
Yeah, for sure. Do a little marathon.
You know, like, I don't think it's unwatchable or anything. It just wasn't where I thought we were going to go.
Yeah, literally. And if nothing else, like, Mia Goth looks amazing in it. Like, it's beautiful to watch. Yes. And, like, yeah. So... But it wasn't my favorite of the three.
No.
When we were in there were literally, because we went to the Saturday matinee, there were literally like 4 other people in there with us, and 2 of them were older men.
Yeah, and they were like, they weren't sitting, there was like a chair in between them, and we like walk in and we're like, ew.
Are they in the right theater? Like, I was nervous for a second. But then...
And they were dressed, like, totally, like, you know, like a khaki short polo, like, just normal older men.
But then when we left the theater, when the movie was over, we overheard them outside, and they were talking about Pearl.
We're like, they're horror fans. How sweet.
So they completely changed our mind.
We thought they were creepos.
Well, and we just didn't know, because at the beginning, Maxxine is still kind of in the adult film industry, and I'm like, oh God, like we weren't close to them at all. But I'm like, oh God, like, is this what they're here for? Or like, is this gonna be uncomfortable? Like, did they not know? But they did know, and they were there for the plot.
They were there for the plot. I know, that was funny.
And we said that'll be like us. We'll be 2 old ladies
going in with our canes and walkers.
And then when things get scary, put our popcorn in front of our face. Do you like? What do you feel about the long legs? Because I've heard that it's kind of creeping people out.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've been watching like a couple different things, the spoiler-free reviews from my YouTubers, and like reading the comments and stuff. Mm-hmm. And people are like, seem pretty into it, and that it's not what you're expecting, and it's like better to go into it. But they said Nicolas Cage does so good.
I heard that too, and I think it's interesting because when I don't think he appears in the trailers at all, and then you're like, Nicolas Cage, you're like, wait a second,
what is he doing in this?
Where is he?
Is he directing?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long these things stay in theaters, too, because with scary movies, it's always like a flash in the pan. Mm-hmm. But that would be one that I wouldn't mind seeing, but I could also wait until streaming.
I know. It seems like the way they like film it and stuff is what makes it pretty spooky, too. Like kind of like the It Follows, but like different. Because I feel like with It Follows, it's very... like everything's kind of surreal and like everything's a little bit off, like the way they're dressed, the way the camera angle is, and I feel like this one is that on steroids.
It gives you that like on edge, kind of like unnerving feeling. Yeah.
But so did you know that I'm gonna screw up her name, Maika dated Joe Keery?
No.
Yeah, they were dating for a long time.
Wait, who's she dating right now? Isn't she dating, didn't she just go on a date with Austin Butler and Kia Gerber?
No, that was Camilla Morone.
Oh, whoops. Who is she dating? I just saw.
I know, I just did too.
Well, while Hannah looks that up.
Stand by Maika.
Literally.
Oh, I forgot she had like a thing with Dalton Gomez.
Yeah, I what else has she been in though? I don't really know her.
She was in It Follows. I know they were
calling mostly horror.
Yeah, they were calling her a scream queen, but I didn't think she was in other. Is it just Dalton Gomez right now?
Is that who it is?
I thought she was with...
Oh, maybe it is.
But I thought there was somebody... like, there was that, and then there was somebody else, but the only things that are popping up are...
Dalton Gomez.
Yeah, and Joe Keery. So, hold on. Stand by for her movies. She
has to look everything up because my phone does
like the producer.
Yeah.
Watcher? 2022 Hot Summer Nights with Ansel Elgort.
Where's he been?
Remember he got canceled, so we're not allowed to. He's not allowed to get hired.
He'll come back in like probably 5
Looks like
more
he was
years.
in Honey Boy. I don't know what her roles are in these movies, but nothing's really like...
Honestly,
she's been in a lot of stuff, actually.
But I mean, she hasn't been like a standout until kind of now, I feel.
It Follows. She had a lot of people liked her for that. But this is like the second time I'm really hearing about her.
Yeah, like she went away and then, well, obviously didn't because she was still working, but like her popularity went down.
Yeah, I was like, she was in that, and then remember it was like our Scream Queen. I was like, I don't know if I'd call her that. Does it only take one
to be a Scream Queen? Is that all you need?
Is that the standard now? But
speaking of Scream Queen, our arch nemesis Emma Roberts got engaged.
Well, I hope she doesn't beat him.
Yes, well, hopefully this is more successful for her.
What, did she ever marry the baby's dad, or they were just engaged?
I think they were just engaged.
What happened there? And then he was... Oh, my goodness. Just a little lore. Apparently, from what I don't even remember what I was listening to or watching, but apparently the reason Rachel Bilson and Hayden Christensen broke up was because of Emma Roberts.
Really?
And then Rachel Bilson it's probably been like 6 months or something, was seen on a date with the Emma Roberts' baby daddy.
Oh my gosh.
So she got a revenge.
Love that.
I know. So anyway, that was just a little lore, but I'm like,
When I think of a Nepo baby in like the negative sense, I think of her.
I know. And like, I feel like she could have had such a different like trajectory. Like, she was so cute and Unfabulous and like Aquamarine and all those little shows.
But I found her annoying and Unfabulous, and that should have been the sign. Even though she was a child.
typically 9-year-olds are pretty annoying. But it's like she could have had like this whole like teen, and she was even in stuff.
And like through American Horror Story, I liked her still until I heard about the tumultuous relationship with poor angel baby Evan Peters, who never could do anything wrong.
She just recently said, she's like, I've dated a lot of method actors, and it's really hard.
And that's when I screenshotted that too, and all the comments were like, so you beat them? Sorry if this is a trigger warning to anybody, and we're not making light of domestic abuse in any way. It's disgusting.
I know. It's just interesting how
awareness
her doing it, or like, with, I mean, not to compare it with Amber Heard, but like Amber Heard got friggin' dragged through the mud, and Emma Roberts has gotten off like scotch-free.
Well, honestly, different time though, because it was. I think if that would have happened more recently with Emma Roberts, it would have been game over.
Yeah.
Especially because weirdly, like American Horror Story was really popular, and like, but it was still almost kind of niche.
I know, and it's almost like even with like reality stars, where it's like you think all these people know who they are, but then you're like, oh, you've never heard of that person? And
like
it's kind of like,
Peters, and they're like, who? But like all these girls that were into like scary stuff knew and loved and were obsessed with like the broken Evan Peters. Right. And then we heard about that, and it was like, whoa, hold the phone. But I feel like the general public didn't really
care.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I don't even know what her career was like right at that
Me
second.
Either.
Where people, if they were even paying attention.
But to be completely honest, I was watching some of Delicate, and I haven't revisited it since whenever I watched it last. I don't know. But I don't think she's that great of an actress. Like,
she's really good at playing that like mean girl thing.
Yeah, the bratty,
but it's
spoiled.
If you take that away from her,
then it's, what else does she have? Right. And honestly, I mean, you can say what you want about Kim Kardashian, but she was, in my opinion, she was holding her own, and there were times when she seemed better than Emma Roberts, in my opinion. And that's sad.
I do feel like Emma Roberts would like rest on
who she is. Yeah.
Or it's like, well, I'm here. I'm the big name.
And it's like,
I know. And Ryan Murphy loves his little mean girls.
I know. He seriously
loves
does.
His little mean girls.
Well, to like go off of that too, just speaking of Ryan Murphy, I started listening to Smartless, you know, that podcast with Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'd never listened to it before, and then I randomly just like went on a mini binge, and Sarah Paulson was one of the guests, and they were like, give us the tea on Ryan Murphy, like you have to have something, and she's like, you know, I don't have anything bad to say, like he's always been so good to me, blah, blah, blah. Of course you're not going to say anything because he's given you like
millions.
Your career practically, like
literally.
Mainstream career, millions of dollars through American Horror Story, that O.J. Simpson
and the other and
show.
The Hatchet or Ratchet.
Yes.
One
about the nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, of course you're not gonna bite the hand that feeds you.
And he probably is nice to her. Like, but he's not.
It's like Truman Capote with his swans.
Yeah.
Ryan Murphy is the modern day Truman Capote, and if this isn't an original thought, I apologize, but it is to me right in this moment. And all his little American Horror Story women are his swans.
Yep.
Emma Roberts, Sarah Paulson, Jessica Lange,
also Leah Michele.
Oh yeah, Leah Michele. Poor little Jessica Lange removed herself from the situation. She couldn't stand it anymore. I bet Lady Gaga is still in that universe.
I know, and she blamed it on Lady Gaga, or she didn't.
Yeah,
but everybody else thought she did. It's like, of course, we had to pit women against each other, but maybe it was you know who.
Billie Lourd.
Billie Lourd.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause she was in Scream Queens too.
what's
that other
the
girl,
one girl?
the blonde.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there's 2 blondes.
The one that did the
Lily
steaming
Rabe,
looks, Lily
and
Rabe, and then the one that's more funny.
Yeah.
I would say she's on like the outer circle, but she's still there.
She's still a little too close for comfort.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
And look, and he can treat them. He can treat them however he wants. He can break them and build them back up, and they're just stuck in this little universe because they're too afraid, and they want to keep working.
Yep.
So just that's some food for thought for anybody out there. But anyway, thinking about like the Smart List podcast, I would honestly, that's going to be my recommendation today, but it's actually really interesting because the guests that they have are mostly like actors and stuff. And then, but since they're all in the industry as well, like they really can kind of, it's interesting to hear them interview another actor because you just get a different perspective.
I know. That's what is like kind of the unfair thing about actors being able to do podcasts, though, because they do get to have like these great conversations with these great people in the industry. It's like nobody else is going to get Jennifer Aniston.
Right. They literally know everybody. Yeah. Like and I mean, obviously the 3 of them.
But it is fun to listen to those conversations.
But the 3 of them have been in the industry for a really long time. So it makes sense that they would know so many people.
But then it's like always like, well, how do you know?
Yeah.
What's the connection there? And then they'll literally tell you, and you're like,
oh. I mean, literally they had Jake Gyllenhaal on, and Jason Bateman is friends with like everybody and their mother. And he was like, yeah, you know, like I used to bike with Jake, and then Jake is like, I've been trying to get you to go on this, but it was like in Europe or something, this like bike trip. He's like, I've been trying to get you to do it and you won't commit and all this stuff. And I'm like, what the freaking heck? Like, what world is this? I would just die. Like, they can just have real conversation.
I'd love to go through a famous person's phone and see all the contacts.
And what do they have them in there as?
I know. like literally just Jake Gyllenhaal.
I know.
Or like Jake the Snake or something crazy, you know, and some inside jokes.
Or sometimes, you know, like with Lady Gaga, for example, like, is she Lady Gaga or is she Stephanie?
Or Steph.
Yeah. Like, what does she go
LG.
by? Like, I'm dying to know.
I know.
This is a different world. But on the way over here, I was listening to the episode with Josh Brolin, and I didn't know he was in Dune, but I've never watched those movies.
I actually did hear that he was in that.
Did you watch them? I mean, I kind of wanted to, but then I know.
It sounds like the second one was amazing.
I know. I heard that too. Well, Sean Hayes was a huge Dune fan, and so he's fangirling out, and then the other 2, like Will and Jason, because they're all funny people, comedians. Like they really will kind of like gang up on each other and make jokes, which sometimes it's annoying, but other times it's funny. But they're like, oh, he's just dying to ask about Dune, and Sean's just like, I just want to know, like, what type of set were you on? Like, was this real, or were you really in the desert? And they're like, what kind of a question is that? Do you think they were really in the desert? Do you think they CGI'd all the sand? What would cost them less money? Like, they're just roasting him. And, like, I don't know. And it's like one of those things with your friends where sometimes you're like, did that go a little too far?
Like, settle down.
I know. But it is interesting. And they had like Mark Ruffalo, who had a brain tumor early in his career, and he talked all about that. And
I remember hearing him talk about that before, but yeah.
Yeah, like it's just, they do pretty good interviews.
And it's like, like you just... You know, like we're so used to like the sit down Diane Sawyer interviews.
I know.
It's just nice for them to like, it's almost like you're coming into the conversation instead of like this really structured
cue cards.
Yeah, it's like you actually get to know these people on like kind of more like a relaxed level, and it like humanizes some of the celebrities.
I know, because even if, if they're on another podcast with the interviewer they don't really know,
right,
and the interviewer is kind of just famous, like with Not Skinny Not Fat, for example,
right,
it's like she's famous for her content and the podcast, but she's not fully in the sphere,
right?
So sometimes her questioning can feel a little, I don't know, like stiff sometimes. Whereas if they're actually friends, and it helps that there's 3 of them, because it's, one of them's gonna know the guest and be familiar, and it just makes it feels really comfortable, and it just feels like I'm eavesdropping almost. I know. Like on their dinner conversation.
I know. That's why it's so, I don't know, it just works better.
I know.
Like, it's just really refreshing to be able to, I mean, I don't listen to Dax Shepard's podcast all the time, but if I go through the list, it's like, just these famous people, and you don't even hear that they're on these podcasts. They don't promote them. They just like, it's like a little treat.
Yeah, but somehow they're the top ranked podcast. Like, what?
It's like, where is everybody talking about this? It's just like it's just so refreshing.
I know.
But it's better than like, and it's nice when they're doing like a press tour and like doing fun podcasts.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to not be hearing just like the topical like reality star of the moment person. Like on this podcast, they're definitely bringing in the heavy hitters, the people that have been around for a long time, and it's just kind of more fun to hear what they have to say and talk about their careers. Right. Like, I like that rather than, we talk about like the Vile Files and stuff, but he'll always have the newest Love Island person on or whatever. And it's like, well, okay, like I'm not watching that, so that doesn't interest me. Whereas even if I haven't watched all Sarah Paulson's films, it's still cool to like listen
hear
to
her perspective. And they, when you're like famous and rich, you get to like experience so much more things and like to hear them come back and talk about like their trip to wherever and stuff. It's just like, when you're in that reality show mindset, you're selling yourself and your drama. So you're not really, they don't have to do that. They have to sell, their projects. So they don't really gain anything by just like having a normal conversation when it's a celebrity. Right. So.
Yeah, but anyway, you don't have to go on and on about my recommendation. But,
I ended up, speaking of comedians, listening to Hannah Berner.
Oh, you did?
What'd you think? Actually, well, it was only 50 minutes, so it wasn't, I guess I've never watched it, or I don't think I've ever watched like a comedy special before. So I was like, oh, this is quick, which that makes sense because that'd be hard to come up with like 4 hours.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like a full-on movie.
I chuckled a little. It wasn't like, but it wasn't like there wasn't any time where I was like busted over laughing, but I will say that the crowd was loving it.
Of course they are.
It's just like, I don't know. I'm like, do they genuinely think that's funny?
No, I think it's fake. They're not going to have a Netflix special and not have.
She did like just a little bit of crowd work. And then a part of me was like, is this just all staged? Like, how would you know if you're just watching something, Yeah. But like if I was there, maybe I'd be like, oh, that's real. But even if you're there, you could almost plant people.
Oh, you
so definitely. Then it's like, are they or aren't they?
Right. Or maybe not planting them, but they could have even picked out 4 random people as they were coming in.
Like, hey, give me a little bit about yourself and we'll let her know.
Right.
But it was, there's like the typical like crude sex talk from a girl. She talked about turning 30, which she's actually 32. So she made like kind of a funny joke about that.
Being married to an older guy. Yeah, I heard some of those
she did
clips.
That. She did a little bit of political stuff. like as far as like gun control stuff. And I was like, I mean, of course, she can't plan the timing of this,
right? But
just what
happened. Timing.
But even then, I'm like, I'm not like this overly sensitive to everything person, but I'm like, I don't know if these jokes are like, it's edgy, but I don't know if it was like I didn't laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I thought she looked good. She had like this bronze colored bodysuit type thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought she looked good. So it's like, I didn't mind looking at her during it, but it wasn't like... I've never listened to Giggly Squad podcasts.
I have heard clips, and that was about all I could muster.
Well, and I just want to say this part too. She like made a reference to Paige, like she was telling a story, and she's like, my friend Paige, right? And everyone's like, woo. And I'm like, it's just I just feel like she's almost like, and I mean this with peace and love, why did she get a comedy special when she almost feels really niche in a way? Like, I know she's really popular with like Gen Z and all that, and like on TikTok, and I know she's been doing comedy for a couple of years, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how long. I really don't. Yeah,
but it just seemed like it almost felt like if like Celebrity Memoir Book Club had like a comedy special, like, you know what I mean? Like, not saying those girls could never get it, but it's like why? Yeah, like it's so, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just so niche. Where, like, if you have Theo Von doing comedy specials, like, that makes sense to me because he's, like, and he's been doing comedy for so long and stuff. Yeah. It just seemed weird that she would, like, have one and then make a reference to, like, you'd have to listen to her podcast to know who Paige was, or you'd have to like know a lot about
the Bravo stuff. Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of like weird.
Well, that is interesting too, because I mean, the history that I know, I don't know how long she's been doing stand-up stuff.
I don't know either.
But she was originally on Summer House with Paige, and then she got kicked off of Summer House because I guess she basically isolated herself from everybody except for Paige.
Well, and then she said something like she got fired because she promoted a different brand, which I was like, I feel like that.
And I didn't watch. I literally just started watching Summer House this past season, and I don't know if I'm going to go back and watch because I think it might be a little...
I hated it just as, like, season one, as much as I did the first time I tried to watch it way back when it first premiered. Like,
yeah,
it's
like,
just
I really don't know if I could, because, like, stuff that I hear about it, I'm like, oh, God, I don't know if I even want to go there.
Well, and then I was like, maybe I'll watch when, like, Hannah Berner first came out. I think maybe season 3 or 4 or something. I was like, maybe I'll try that, but I haven't yet.
But I also heard that she had, like, made a comment that kind of, like, belittled somebody's like sobriety or something, and really like made light of that. And the reason that I heard the general consensus from people was that she literally just like nobody liked her except for Paige, and that's why she was booted from the show. She
seems likable from like the outside. Like when I was watching, I'm like, I get why people like the shtick, you know what I mean? But it's just not for me.
I know, and I literally, like, I feel the same way about Paige DeSorbo, and I was trying to, like, reflect as a woman, like, why do I not like them? Like, I'm just annoyed by them.
Right, I'm not as familiar with Paige, like, I see almost nothing of her.
Yeah.
And I'm not that familiar with Hannah Berner either, but it was, like, I don't know, it's, like... And I've never listened to their podcasts, so I don't know like what the vibe is. And I do tend to like comedians more when they're in that informal setting.
Right.
Like I don't love stand-up comedy, so I don't know if they're like really fun and everything. But like I guess like if I was a comedian and doing a comedy special, like the material she gave in this, and I know it's like her first comedy special, but I'm like, that's what you wanted. Like, that's what you worked really hard on.
I heard heard too that she stole jokes from another female comedian.
I don't know like for sure, but there was like a lot of, in the beginning, I felt like unoriginal jokes. Just like different versions of stuff like we've seen. Like they were kind of like TikTok jokes. You know, like kind of like the vibe everybody was saying. And I can't remember any specifically, but it was like.
Yeah, and I don't, because I didn't watch the special, so I don't know. And I don't even know exactly what jokes they were talking about. But I had heard, so they might not have even been in the special, but I had heard that was like a big thing with her, that she straight up stole jokes from another female comedian. And that's like a huge no. And like, because Heather McDonald has talked about that
I've heard her
a lot. And she's like, there are definitely things where it's like, oh, that happened to me and I thought it was funny, but it also happened to somebody else.
Right.
Like I feel like TikTok is one thing that has shown me that I basically have no original experiences because I'm baffled every day.
Or even if you think of something and then you'll literally see it come up on the timeline and it's like, oh,
other
like,
people experience. So it's like, it's understandable
that's going to happen.
Yeah. But in the case with Hannah Berner, and I know this has happened with other comedians too, it's like literally word for word jokes have been taken.
Which is really like, I wonder what goes through their heads, because that's so bold. Especially with the internet. Like I feel like you probably could have got away with that a lot more back in the day, where you're literally probably had to go see it yourself and steal
literally
it.
Sit in the crowd, hear it, and then, well, no one's gonna know because, you know, this was maybe a smaller comedian, or, well, if they weren't at this show, they'll never know. But now people can literally do side by sides and show that you're like doing the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I think I'm like weird with comedy too. But, like, I really like Heather McDonald's comedy. And there are things with her that I, like, don't find funny. I'm not, like, dying at everything. But, like, when I listen to Juicy Scoop, like, there will be things where I'll literally laugh out loud with her. But then with other, like, comedians or, like, with clips that I've seen, because I've looked on Hannah Berner's TikTok or Instagram before, like, none of them made me, like, chuckle just from what I've seen.
Or like I felt too, like in the special, there was a lot of that like easy towards the women comedy. Yeah. You know, like what's gonna make them laugh? Let's talk about how bad men are in bed.
Yeah,
you know? It's like how unsatisfying.
Yeah, right. Like
physical
of course
intimacy
that's
is.
gonna do
I know,
it.
it's like okay.
Or like the typical like I just lay there joke.
Yeah.
Like women always roll for that one. You know, it's like.
Or like I didn't take my birth control.
Yeah, like I thought I was pregnant. Like I went on a bad date. Like I mean,
I definitely like in the beginning. I'm like, these feel like TikTok jokes. Like that's going through the sphere of TikTok jokes, and then there's like just a couple parts where I thought
they were
funny,
mildly
but it's
funny.
Like I don't know. It just wasn't like. The people, like when I listen to Tiger Belly or Bad Friends, it's like I'm bent over dying laughing. And it's like, but I don't know how I'd feel if I went and saw Bobby Lee stand up. Like maybe I wouldn't like it as much. Or like Theo Von, he says the craziest things and I'll be dying laughing on his podcast.
Yeah.
But I've never watched a stand up and maybe it wouldn't be the same.
I know. No, even, I mean, with listening with like Smartless too, they're not. As far as I know, none of like them like go out on the road. Yeah. But like,
hasn't Jason Bateman though? Hasn't he?
I thought Will Arnett had done something too, but I could just be
like maybe way back in the day.
Yeah, or maybe they did something together. I don't know, but like their banter is funny and it will make me laugh and
that
their timing.
That to me is more impressive because that's all on the fly.
Right, I know.
Like you're not coming up with jokes and stuff. You're like, that's all right there. And even like if the crowd work is genuinely real, like that is good. Like you're being quick, you're being, you know. I've been to I guess 3 comedy shows. Me and my husband and his cousin and his wife, this was like forever ago, went to the Bob and Tom like comedy thing. And that was fun. Like I feel like the energy was fun. And then We went to one just because we have a comedy place here in
close,
town.
Yeah.
It was some guy we didn't know, and it was fun, and it was like a small low key. And then when I went to Celebrity Memoir Book Club, they did some stand up, and they actually, Ashley had me laughing pretty dang hard.
Now, side note on them, did they do stand up individually before? They did. Okay.
Yeah, and they still, I don't think they do it as much, but they were like still kind of doing it when they were doing the podcast.
Interesting.
And stuff. I know, and they like talk about being comedians a lot. But I do think this is really like shallow thing to talk about, but Hannah Berner's like outfit, I thought it was cute and I thought she looked good. But it's interesting to hear female comics talk about like what they're gonna wear to be taken. Like, I know Claire from Celebrity Memoir Book Club kind of went, she's like, I decided to like go, she goes, I first started out like I'd do like the hair and the makeup and all that. And she's like, then I went the other way and like kind of basically looked like crap when I would do it. And then we have like Heather.
She talks about it all the time.
She's like, this is what I want to wear. This is what I feel good. I do my own hair and makeup. And
but she would say too, like when she first was going, she's like, I never like wore dresses or shorts, or I always wore pants and a blazer.
Right. Because you were like in this male dominated thing, and you can't, nobody's going to take you seriously if you look like that bimbo thing. And I just wondered, like, I feel like, but then like I was just looking at some of the whatever specials. I'm like, maybe I'll try and watch like a guy's special, on Netflix. And I saw, and it was like Theo Von, one of his, and he just had a black shirt and black pants on. And it's like he probably still put thought into it, but not like
woman.
I know, and like what she has to think about when she gets, and and then everybody's gonna call you fat if you look bad, or too skinny if you look bad, or your makeup looks bad, and your hair's
showing too much, or you're showing too little. Yeah,
I just think that's interesting to think about.
It is. There's so much. Yeah, because it just is a male dominated industry. I do feel like with Hannah Berner too, like the way that, and I will say like Amy Schumer isn't my favorite ever in the world, but like I do think that she's more funny.
Yeah, she can be pretty funny.
Yeah, like I find her funnier than Hannah Berner.
Yeah, I agree.
But the way that so many people that are like famous or pseudo famous have like been behind Hannah Berner is like kind of crazy and kind of like reminiscent of the Amy Schumer. But I think that it was more warranted for Amy Schumer, in my opinion. And now with Hannah Berner, like I see so much with like people, because we're obviously following the Bravosphere, so I see so much with them on like Instagram, whatever, like liking stuff or whatnot. And it's like, are you just doing it because it's like she's a female comic and she's your friend,
right? Or like maybe she is super fun and likable as like a friend person. But it is interesting to think about too, like with female comics, like you were doing the stand-up and stuff on the side, and then you were trying to get in movies, and you were like, I feel like Amy Schumer was a big part of that, like get them in there, and like Kristen Wiig and stuff, and Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, but like Hannah Berner doesn't have to do that. Like I don't picture her ever being in like a serious movie. Maybe she will be, or like a serious big role.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really seem like she even wants to.
And that she even has to. Where it's like Amy Schumer kind of like, yeah, you were doing your comedy stuff, but then you also wanted to be in these movies and do the comedic roles in the movies and stuff. It's kind of interesting to think about.
It is, yeah. I don't know.
But even like with Hannah Berner, she kind of gives off a little like Tana Mongeau vibes, but I actually think Tana is genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And comes and like is just
I just find Tana, and I know some people probably don't agree, but I find her more likable.
Yeah, I find her, well, obviously I find her
you really like her, but
many years.
But she just is more genuine, I think.
Yeah. Or I mean, even if you looked at Tana and Hannah, you could, Tana's been doing it for a really long time. Hannah Berner feels like she almost kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, know. Obviously a reality show, but.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder when, I mean, I didn't look it up, but I wonder when, like, the comedy thing, like, had that always been something she was working on? And then it's like, oh, I have an opportunity to be on a reality show? Like, heck yeah.
Well, and sometimes it feels like, I mean, we kind of said this with, like, the ratings and stuff, that Netflix may be manufacturers. But it's like sometimes people who get these Netflix comedy specials, you don't even really know who they are. And you're just like, how did you get this?
Right.
And because then there's people who have been in it for so long, and maybe the opportunity was given to them and they turned it down for whatever reason, but like they don't have these, and it's kind of like,
I know. Or like Bobby Lee, not to keep bringing up Bobby Lee, but he was talking about that too. He has never done a special, and it sounds like he's working on going to be able to do one, but it was like, I don't know, it's kind of like this girl from, you know, reality TV all of a sudden gets like this huge, I'm sure it was huge, Netflix deal.
I know. And
like,
she's married to another comedian. I wonder if that had something to do with it. I don't know how famous he is. Like, I don't know.
I mean, like, it makes sense that Netflix would do that. Like, let's get this, you know, who's hot right now.
Right.
Like, it makes sense for them, but it just goes kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I mean, it's...
Like I said, it wasn't great. Like, I don't know. I probably wouldn't watch another one of her comedy specials.
But I feel like if they, like, because I know a lot of times, I don't know if it's like this all the time, but sometimes they'll be doing like a legit, I know this is the way it has been for concerts. Like, okay, we're going to shoot the part of the documentary at our Madison Square Garden show. So they might even announce that. Right. And like sometimes they might have to reshoot something. They'd be like, oh, guys, we got to play this again. Mm-hmm. Or like, we're starting over because this needs to be perfect for the documentary. But it's a real show. Right. But I wonder if they do that with the comedy shows too, if it's like she was on a tour and this was like an actual like show that she was doing anyway, and then they just said, hey, we're going to use this one for the special. Or if this was, okay, we're giving you this special, let's fill this with people. From what I've heard from some of the comedians, it sounds like we planned out, this is where we're going to do it. So it was planned the whole time. Yeah, I don't know for her specifically, but hers, she's like, hello, Philadelphia. So she was like randomly in Philadelphia. I don't know if she liked that theater. I don't know if she was on a tour before. Right. Or if they were kind of like, here. I mean, I guess she was probably doing some stuff here and there and just like that. But yeah, why clips. Philadelphia? Is she from like, there? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she is. But yeah, it sounds like they're not usually super on tour. I don't know though. Maybe it's different for everybody. Maybe it's different now. Maybe it's and I think it probably has a lot to do with what Netflix wants. Right. Because they're the ones that are bankrolling it. Right. So like, let's do your last show of the tour, or why don't you do this show? What this kind of goes into just, I don't know, with like news stuff and anything really. What I had snapped you the other day, like what I don't know what is real and what is genuine anymore. Right. Like, you know, you watch that and you're like, okay, were those jokes? Was that crowd work planned? Was that a laugh track or was that real? I know, like, I think, not to be dramatic, but when we're like talking about these reality shows and they're not reality shows anymore and they're telling us, well, yeah, it's real, but it's like we're working on our storyline. It's like, it makes me think that for everything. I know, like, how can I? It's like, I feel like everything isn't real. I know. And even with, I mean, I'll see, like, I literally on TikTok today, it was randomly just like a news thing that was totally fake. And it was about that James Kennedy and Allie had broken up. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, I definitely would have heard about that. Right. And then, no, they're off on, like, to the Bahamas or something. Right. Literally today, they just flew there together. And that was totally, but it was like a fully manufactured, like, it looked like it was clipped from the headlines. Just like, that's totally not real at all. Right. Like, I bet if I Googled that, I wouldn't even be able to find it. Like, someone literally just made it up to post it on TikTok.
I know, and you're like, did they hear something, or they just wanted views?
Yeah.
Because that's like the other thing, too. I'm like, it's just people wanting to be famous, so let's just make something up. Or like, sometimes, you know, like, let's say you're a waiter at a restaurant and a celebrity comes in and you just feel like they were just so mean to you and stuff. And that's all, not that it is or isn't true, but it's like, that's your perspective.
Yeah.
And then you're upset. Get online.
Yeah.
Make this TikTok. It does really well.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, I hate you and blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
or
okay,
then
well,
now, okay, that like one incident, but for the person who posted it, they're like, oh, well, now this is my thing.
Right.
So I'm still a waiter at this restaurant.
Let me come
so
up
now
with
I have
some
to
more
keep
stories.
posting stuff. Yeah. It's like, or I mean, you remember back, I feel like you don't see it as much now, but you'd see it on like Vine and stuff back in the day, or like random local news stuff where they say that they're interviewing like a eyewitness, and it would literally be like,
they have no teeth.
I know. And it's literally just like the first person the news crews saw when they came on
what do you think of
scene.
this? And they're like, it's like, and then you get the memes of the hide your kids, hide your wife.
Right. Or the one where the guy or the news people are like, did you know that there was a crack house right next door to you? And he's like, oh, what? And it's like, obviously you knew.
Say, huh?
Yeah. But it's like people will just like make things up, and I don't even like, sometimes I don't even think it's malicious. I think that they just are like, they see kind of stars in their eyes.
You're like, yeah. And then, you know, I know, or like you just clam up in front of the thing, but it's like, anybody could do that. It's like, well, yeah, I knew. It's like, it always happens when like somebody gets like murdered or something.
Yes,
it's like,
always.
Oh, well, I went to kindergarten with them, even though I'm 75 now.
She was the sweetest.
We were best friends.
Or you'll see that with reality stuff all the time too, like the new reality star, and then it'll be like, well, I dated him when I was in high school, and he was a horrible kisser. It's like, okay.
I know, like, literally.
That's like me, my claim to fame that I went to college with Travis Kelce. Like,
but you could like,
oh yeah.
But then it's kind of like you could be like, prove that you were there the same time he was, and then come up with this whole story, and it's like, oh,
who's gonna prove me wrong? Yeah, I was in that sweet spot where not everything was online, so. Yeah, I know. It's just, it makes me just question everything now. And I just feel like maybe other people don't feel this way as much, but because we're so, I don't know, into like the reality show sphere, it just, when they're literally saying, yeah, this is fully fake, when we legitimately thought it was real, it's like the hills all over again. Like, I feel like the wool is being pulled over my eyes,
and it hurts my feelings. It's like, what am I even supposed to believe anymore?
I don't, like, I can't even believe genuine news because I am skeptical.
I know, on this like bias stuff, and it's like, oh, we'll report on this because it fits our agenda, but we're not going to report on these 5 other stories that go against what we want to push out.
So, and then we don't see the deep fakes as much, but like people are still
that was
doing
like a
it.
huge deal there. Or even when you're on TikTok and it's like Justin Bieber singing Sabrina Carpenter's song, and they have like that AI version of his voice in the song. And
what is going on? Like that just freaks me out. Like I am so, I do not know what's real.
I know, that's why it's almost like, it's such a double-edged sword, because you're like, well, just stay away from it all, like just ignore it, you know, but then you have no idea what's going on. So it's like, where's the happy medium?
I know, I don't know where it is. I don't know.
And even sometimes I'll like hear something and I'll be like, did you hear about the blah, blah, blah? And then as I'm saying it, I'm like, this doesn't sound real anymore.
No, never mind.
I know, and then you're like, you like check out of your own story. It's like, actually,
never forget I said anything. I know, just even like some things, you know, that'll be on TikTok that's like dumb, like somebody recommending a product and they're like, this cleared up my skin.
Well, and they're getting better at it too, because I'll be like, you guys, I just had the best mascara, and I'm like, oh, what is it? And then I look down and there it is, sponsored. I'm like, got me again.
I know. I know. It's seriously.
They're like getting better and better. And it's like, I'm not going to buy this off of you because you're getting paid.
I know. It's not genuine. I don't believe that you use that. I don't believe.
No.
Yeah. Or even stupid things.
Sorry.
Like just so dumb. Like I saw the other day, and then when I got my hair cut, my stylist saw it too. And we're both like, oh my God. But it was, all you need is 15 minutes each side for an even suntan. Some girl probably just said that on TikTok, and now I'm here like setting a timer. Like,
I know, right?
Where's the proof in that?
I know, and I know, or even that, was it Michaela? The girl that's like, Kim Kardashian.
Oh, yeah.
That girl. Yeah. Remember she had that whole mascara gate?
Yeah.
Where I was like, look. It's like, you have fake eyelashes on. Like, just that desperation even for this, like, selling the product and making the money.
But people are eating it up.
I know, and half the time if I'm like buying skincare, I'll like start, or makeup, and I'll like start looking at the reviews, and I'm like, no, this person has completely different skin than
I know.
me. They're like, it clung to all my dry patches. I'm like, I don't have dry patches. So it's
my skin is perfectly supple.
It's too supple is the problem. We are not getting dry patches here. But it's like, your skin is totally different than mine. So like, why should I take your word for it? And then you almost just like, it's like, I'm just going to decide if I like it or if I don't like it.
Yeah, like I can't. I know I would always look at reviews and stuff, but now I'm kind of just like, well, I mean, I might look and see, okay, a lot of people have said it's good.
Right. Or if like a lot of people say that it creases under their eye and it's a common thing, I'm like, okay,
yeah, well, I mean, that happens to me for literally everything, so.
It's like there might be some validity if everybody's saying the same thing, but it's like.
I know, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I don't know.
And everybody's so money hungry. That's the other thing too, where it's like, I can't believe you because you're so far deep into something.
I know. Or even the stupidest things, like this one TikTok, it was like a mother-daughter thing, and at first, like the bold glamour filter was on there, but I didn't even see it at first. And then for like a split second, I'm like, wow, that mom has a full face of makeup on. And then as I watched a few more seconds, I realized, okay, no, this is clearly a filter. But I'm like, why are you putting this on when you're literally on the street and then your daughter, like, it was a really weird thing. But then in the comments, like, I think some people like didn't realize, and they're like, you look like Jessie J, which she did with this filter. But I'm just like, it looked good.
Right. Like it looked real.
Yeah, like you couldn't honestly tell the difference unless you really paid attention. And I feel like you just, nowadays, you have to fully be completely paying attention to the
you're
content.
Just getting tricked. You're getting tricked about what people look like, about what they're selling.
Yeah.
About just literally everything. About their life even.
I know. Even when that one lady, the original woman to do Who the F Did I Marry?
Tisa or whatever.
Yeah, like now every time I see a new one of those, like I don't believe it, because I'm like, are you just seeing how
banking in on that?
Got successful, and you want to share your story, or are you trying to emulate what she did?
I know,
and get
like
famous?
for views.
Yeah,
I know. It is. I know.
And then it's so like my brain is so scrambled.
Well, and then like when TikTok first kind of like became TikTok, it was like the big, like the Charli D'Amelio's, Addison Rae's and stuff.
Yeah,
were doing the dances that smaller creators, and they were like getting all the credit, all the views, all the sponsorship.
Like it was theirs. Yeah,
it's like, how is that fair?
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't even know.
Which actually, to change topics a little bit, but it kind of goes with that. I watched the movie Ginger Snaps. And
I don't know that movie.
Well, it's that werewolf movie where it's like the two sisters. And
I don't think who's in it.
I
Anybody
don't remember.
Famous?
Yes, but not famous now, kind of.
Oh, it's an older one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think it was in 2000 when it came out.
Oh, okay. I still don't know it, but I thought it was new.
Have you heard of it because of Jennifer's Body? Like,
no, I don't think I've ever heard of it.
I had watched it a long time ago. And I remember thinking it was scary. So I must have been like young. Like I was like, this is scary. But this time I watched it wasn't scary. But it was really good. But I really loved it actually. So basically it's kind of like a metaphor thing. Like she gets her, like it's these two sisters and they're kind of like those outsiders and like kind of rely on each other.
Yeah.
You know, and they're kind of like goth or punky and then the older sister ends up like starting her period. But not really. She gets attacked by a werewolf. So she like so it's kind of like a big metaphor of like puberty and being a teenage girl, and then she's like slowly keeps becoming this werewolf.
Which that was kind of like that coming of age movie was really popular back then.
It was, and so I really loved it, but I didn't realize I had heard of it from Jennifer's Body too, that it was like kind of inspired. But
wait, it was inspired by Jennifer's Body, or
other way around.
Okay.
But Jennifer's Body, and I still love Jennifer's Body, and I'm not going to hold this against anybody.
Oh, God.
Really took the iconic parts of Ginger Snaps. And, like, I mean, they're still different stories, but, okay, the iconic, like, because it's like she gets bit by the werewolf, and she also becomes, like, more sexual. Yeah. The walking down the hallway scene was stolen. Not stolen, but like Ginger is walking down the hallway all hot, like Jennifer does.
It's like a mirror, yeah.
And then there's the part where she like where Jennifer goes to Needy and she's like, "Are you scared?" Mm-hmm. And like is all up in her. That is in it too, but it's like less sexual because she's like doing it to the sister.
The sister, okay.
Then the part where she's like, "I am a god."
That was taken,
but it was a little different. I think she says, I wrote it down because I was kind of like, hold on, guys. Give me a second.
Producers gotta check the notes, our show notes.
Oh, she says, "I'm a god, the force of nature." And like that real cocky like thing like Jennifer did. Mm-hmm. And I guess my question would be, I know like a lot of movies will pay like homage to other movies. And I know scary movies do that a lot, but like it kind of stole. Like, I don't know how to feel about it. I'm like, what part is just like paying tribute to it versus like taking
ripping it off.
Because those were probably more like an original thought.
Or were there any like of the same people involved, like writers? No.
Mm-mm. I know. I don't know like what to think.
And obviously that movie was not as big of a success,
so it's
like, has become a cult classic.
Or like it is, but not in the way that Jennifer Body had like totally taken back over. Damn. But like this, it's, and while I still think Jennifer Body, obviously it plays on that like female friendship, where this one did more of a sister
bond. Yeah.
So it was different. Obviously the werewolf and the demon thing is different. And
like other parts of the storyline.
Yeah, but even when it ended, because the sister ends up killing Ginger.
The other sister.
Yeah, the other sister ends up killing... Bridget is one sister. Ginger is Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps.
I know, it's kind of funny. So at the end, she like fully becomes the werewolf, and the sister has like the choice to basically kill her or kind of like maybe let her live. But it's like there's like... It was actually a really good movie, but she ends up killing her. Just like Needy kills Jennifer at the end. And it's like, obviously in Jennifer's body, it has that whole like revenge where she goes and gets revenge on the band.
Yeah.
That didn't happen because that wasn't an aspect to it. It was just she had gotten bit by the werewolf or whatever. So it even kind of like ended
similarly. Yeah.
And so I don't know how to feel about that, but I really did enjoy
the movie as a whole.
The movie, I did. I thought it was a really fun and like it gave that Jennifer's Body vibe that we love.
Yeah, I would love to hear what other people think about this. Like if other people have watched this movie and thought the same thing.
When I was on Letterboxd, people are like, "Oh, this is," they're like, "Oh, the Jennifer Body. It's like Jennifer's Body. It's like Jennifer's Body." It's like, no, Jennifer's Body is like this.
Yeah.
But I did want to read more about what if people like were, and I don't, like, I think they were different enough, but to have those super iconic parts was like interesting. And like Jennifer and Ginger were, and even like Jennifer Ginger is kind of similar. They were different. But I mean, even like and the other part that was the same was like the younger sister Bridget had kind of like a love interest. And Ginger goes for him after they get in a fight, just like Jennifer went for. Yeah. I don't know. Like,
I don't know either. I'm going to have to watch it.
I know. I really loved it. And I thought it was.
What is it on? If you say Prime, I'm going to.
It might have been Prime. But I think it was on YouTube. I think I saw where because you know how sometimes you can watch free movies. Try YouTube. I really liked it. I mean, the werewolf effects weren't great,
obviously, at the time,
but I thought it was really good. And it was dark too. Like it was like the sisters are like obsessed with death and like isolating themselves. But then when Ginger becomes like, she gets more sexual and wants more attention from other people, and has like the change. And I thought something that was interesting because then I was watching like behind the scenes stuff. And when the guys get bit by this, because it's kind of like, like the sexuality and stuff, they become super aggressive in like a testosterone type way. That's the way they change through puberty, where the girl becomes more like emotional and like sexual in her own skin. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. Like I said, it gave the same vibes as Jennifer's Body, but they're 2-1 at this point.
I would like to hear what other people, if you've watched this movie, please comment.
Yeah, like what did you think? Do you like the homage or homage?
Yeah.
Is it homage or
homage? I don't know.
To Jennifer's Body? Or like to Ginger Snaps from Jennifer's Body? Or do you think it was kind of like
a ripoff?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, if you end up watching it, let me know if you thought it was like...
I will watch. I'll look that up. That's really interesting.
I know. I don't want to say I was like disappointed, but I was really shocked at how many scene for scene and like
were the same. Well, and it's like the same too, what we said about some other things where people will blame like the actor,
right,
whatever. And it's not as if like everybody was in on this.
Right.
So it's not like we can fully blame, like they all knew and they but it's just how did this come about?
Right.
Or was there one person who worked on both movies and that's how like the connection?
Or did they, like, was it supposed to be an obvious thing that they're like, this is where this idea is based off? Because I do love that like idea of like exploring like teenagehood and females and like their dynamics. So it's like,
because I mean that's not a new concept either. But that just to have the blatant
like scenes like that hallway scene, I was like, and like you know, obviously when you're seeing Megan Fox walk down a hallway,
I mean, this girl as hot as Megan Fox.
She was hot, but nobody's as hot as Megan Fox.
Yeah,
so prime, it was kind of like, but it was like,
whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She's doing the hallway thing. And
interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look this up and watch.
Yeah, just see what you thought as far as like I don't know it. Like I said, it doesn't change my perspective on Jennifer's body because that was our ginger snaps. But I don't know.
It just made you think about it a little differently.
Yeah. I'm like, you're different, but you're the same.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that either. I
know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to watch and maybe do a little digging.
Yeah, like, does anybody know that these two movies are this similar? And is it okay? Like, it was an intention? Because I've heard the communication with both of those, like, oh, it's like ginger snaps, kind of. But to actually like see it for my own eyes, I'm like, but is that okay? Or like that was totally intentional in like an obvious way? Even if they would have just did the one, you know, hallway scene, like that's just iconic. Right. And like that's so cool to see. But the getting in the ear, like the same exact shot was like wild.
Like the hallway thing too, it's like, okay, we've seen something similar in Mean Girls. We've seen it in like any teen movie basically. But so if it was just that, it wouldn't really be. Right. But then when there's so many other parallels.
You know, I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down so I don't forget.
And it had that vibe, like the hair.
Yeah, the vibe.
The other characters, the guys, like it was just so.
That wonderful time.
Fun. Yeah. Just like they all looked so good in that way. And they looked like real people, you know.
I know we don't have that anymore, that's for sure. Even in Jennifer's body, even though obviously Megan Fox was like otherworldly.
Right. She was just starting to get like the lip filler, but she's still like her teeth were so cute.
And everybody else looked really normal,
like
honestly.
Or Amanda Seyfried. I mean, she still looks normal, the same.
Yeah.
And everybody else was just like,
it was just a different time. People weren't doing so much with themselves, you know.
I know. And it's like, even though you knew Megan and Amanda were older, you still kind of believed they were teenagers in that way.
Yeah.
But anywho, I just thought it was interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, I keep just repeating myself, but I'm definitely gonna look that up and watch it because now I'm really curious. Okay, guys, it's no secret that Hannah and I have a sweet tooth, but we hate the guilt that we feel after we've binged on some of our favorite cookies, donuts, or other treats. So that's where Dough comes in. Dough is an edible cookie dough company that also has donut holes and some delicious chocolate hazelnut spreads that you can eat and not feel so guilty afterwards. These treats are made with extra ingredients that are good for you, gives you extra energy, makes you focus more, and the best part is that they are vegan and gluten-free, which is so amazing and something that you don't find all the time. And sometimes when you get vegan or gluten-free products, they taste vegan and gluten-free, but these cookie doughs and donut holes do not skimp out on the flavor, and they are so delicious. We have tried the cookie dough raw and baked, and it's good either way. And one of our favorite new donut holes are the collab donut holes with Chamberlain coffee, and it's the cinnamon sugar, and these are just so amazing. You want to eat them with your favorite cup of coffee in the morning. They're just so delicious. And the best part is that they come with some extra vitamins in there to, get your day going and help you focus a little bit more. So if you want to try these vegan, gluten-free, and delicious products, you can go to Eat Dough, and that's spelled DEUX.com to place an order. And if you use the code WaterBottle15, you can get an extra 15% off of whatever you order. That is Dough, spelled DEUX, and use WaterBottle15 for 15% off.
I listened to Crystal Hefner's book.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm. It was called Only Say Good Things. I thought she came off really likable. Like,
that's
weirdly,
interesting.
I know, in the book. I haven't listened to any interviews of her or anything. I was going to, but then I just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to compare her and Holly's book a little bit. But
I'm sure that's the main thing, yeah.
I felt like Holly's book came off a lot more. I still like Holly, but I do think that hers came off a lot more bitter. And I felt like this book came off a little bit more self-aware and it definitely had the way she was narrating it, because I listened to it. It was very melancholy, but she also went through some like health problems and stuff. So I do feel like
recently or during
when she was there, but she kind of had like, she ended up getting implants and she had that situation where that scar tissue builds up around them. So that was making her really sick. And then she ended up testing positive for like Lyme's disease. Like this is towards the end, like they're fully married. And then basically the whole mansion was covered in mold. So she was just like severely sick. I know. Well, she was like, well, now that they're saying it, though, it would literally leak like crazy when it would rain and nobody would do anything about it. So it's like, I guess it's fine. But apparently there was just like a crap ton of mold in there.
Side note about that, though, that puts another perspective on why they just knocked it.
I know.
And it was like, oh my God, how could they do that? It's so upsetting. Well, and it's weird too, because he could have, they could have afforded to have people come maintaining the house.
That's what is so weird. Like, I know, not that I think, well, I do think he's kind of a fascinating person, like in a bad way. The way he like had that, because I mean, that was even like, I think there was so much parallels with like the way Holly lived with him and the way Crystal lived with him. But just like that routine of like, Thursdays we do this. Mondays the boys come over. Sundays, every Sunday. Like, I cannot imagine living like that for like 70 years.
I know.
Like, he's just living the same life it's almost insane. So I guess when I hear that like the whole place is falling apart, I'm kind of not surprised. Like, I feel like you would be like, well, we can't fix things, and people will find out,
and it'll disrupt our routine.
Right, we can't have construction workers in here when we're trying to do photo shoots and have the game night.
Yeah, I mean, not to again sound like such a male sympathizer, but it is just like interesting to kind of understand how his mind like worked. Like, I think the whole Playboy thing is so fascinating. Like, he really, like, honestly, if it wasn't for Playboy, then, like, I don't really think that we would have, like, kind of the female sexual liberation that we have now. And I know that in a weird way, like, he also, like, demeaned women. Right. Like, his own playmates, kind of.
Yeah, like, his girlfriends. Yeah. He liked.
The ones that were closest to him. But, like, I mean, he really changed the scope of just, like, I don't know, like, how we look at a woman's body. And I remember, like, when we were younger, like, it was a huge deal to be on the cover of Playboy.
And it's, like, as much as, coming at it from a 2024 perspective, it's, like, but it is such an important part, I think, of pop culture. I
think so, too.
Like, you can't. And I do find it fascinating to hear from these girls, these lives, and like that it wasn't all that it seemed. Yeah. And it's like,
and those crazy iconic parties that would be at the Playboy mansions, and you just hear all this stuff and you're like, oh my God, I want to go. Maybe one day we'll get to go. And then you kind of like, that was all like a facade almost. Yeah. And then even when we had like the girls next door, like that was even still kind of a facade.
Yeah, like it was all like, you're like, that's the only time they were getting to like travel. And it was interesting too, like, and Holly talks about this too, but then Crystal really, like, he was so like, you could not, I don't want to say it's sad, but like he worked so hard to keep up this image for it to just all be completely tarnished after he's well, and I know it's not like it's almost like I don't know if the word is sad though, but just like he did all this, he kept people at that distance to create this person and create this image, and then and it was so glorified for so long, and then all of a sudden, you know, like everybody, you know, switch their thinking for the better, but then they do that and he's like just this gross, disgusting man that we're all, and like,
but it's just interesting because even with like Holly or Bridget or any of the other girls, I mean, things weren't perfect when they were in it, but like they were in it for a really long time.
I know. And part of when I was listening to it, and I thought that Crystal had a bit more accountability in the apartment because they were also a part of the facade and like creating it and like bringing the women back to him.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I do think a lot of them were consensual and all went up there because they thought it was going to get them this and that and this and that. But you're still bringing these women in here and creating this life for him too, in a way. And it's kind of like, it's just a interesting thing to think about. Well, like you put on the show too.
Yeah.
But
which, like, I mean, we had this conversation before where it's like I don't blame them because you know,
and it was more regarded then, like it was something.
And you're like, well, you know, I can get this, I'm gonna gain this, I'm promised this, like I don't blame anybody for doing maybe like unethical or going against like bigger morals or whatever, because you just kind of like are hoping for your big more break. Yeah,
I know. And it's like you're bringing other women up to the bedroom so you don't have to do it.
I know.
And
it's
like,
just the thing that we've said before, just own it. Like I don't have any problem with anything that anybody does for fame or glory or whatever. Just own it.
I know. And I thought that Crystal had a lot better, and I'm sure this book was written through therapy and stuff, but it's like she had a lot more, I felt like, humility and wasn't as judgmental towards other women as I think that Holly kind of came across. I mean, she would, but it's interesting too that Hef was able to find these like Hollies and Crystals that like were willing to do the whole thing, like do the relationship, but
I think we still do see that, even though it's not on as grand of a scale. Obviously with Hugh Hefner there was so much more like legitimate commitment and control, but like we still do see these 20-somethings that get with somebody that's like 70 and you're like, this doesn't really add up, but she's doing it because she's, you know, getting what she wants. But it is just like it was with a whole different level with them still. And that's why I thought I mean, I didn't listen to her book, but it was almost shocking when we kind of talked about it like months ago that like, you know what you're getting into at this point, but yet you still did it. Like, that's what's kind of, like, shocking to me, you know?
I know, and,
like, did she talk about that? Like,
that's what's kind of the problem with Holly and her book. I keep comparing them, but I don't care.
Well, but
we don't get, like, we don't get, like, as much of the backstory, because it's like what made you think, and I felt like I got a little bit more with Crystal. Like she kind of like, she wanted to be, she's like, I was always fascinated with the Playboy things. Like my stepdad had the Playboy magazine. She's like, I want to be as beautiful as them. I want to do this. And then it like the opportunity, she like moved to that area, and she just kind of, I can't remember the exact story, but she got to go to a party, and then, you know, like they do the Polaroid thing, and then she's asked back, and then she kind of like gets to live in the mansion. But I thought it was interesting too how she talked about like the very end and like her literally being there at the very end, and she like talked about, you know, when they were getting married, and she's like, initially it was like this whole she's like, he didn't even ask me to get married, I didn't even say yes, but I just like took the ring and put it on because it was in front of everybody.
But like, what led up to that? Like, how did she get
right
from like, I'm fascinated with this life to like, I'm literally married?
Well, and then it was okay, so then she like, if I'm remembering correctly, she goes to the party, and then this leads to that. They call her back, and then she's like kind of staying there. And then I can't remember if he asked her to move in or she asked to move in. But at that time, those Shannon twins are there.
Okay.
And then they had Crystal, and then it was like those three, and then the other women they would bring into the bedroom and stuff. And then she just kind of like becomes the main girlfriend, and then they're together, and then they film the show.
Yeah.
And then they find out that the show, and she said, I liked filming the show, kind of like what Holly said and everything. Then we found out the show wasn't going to happen anymore, but she's like, I'm still stayed and was like living this whole life. And then she said, basically he's like getting older, and then the Shannon twins end up leaving. So then it is basically just her, but then she would have her friend, I think it was Amber. Was it Amber or Paige? It was one of those names. And she would have her come a lot, and they would like get the girls to come up to the bedroom.
That's just wild.
I know, it is wild. And they do like the whole spiel. And then he pretty much started getting like old.
Yeah.
And then then they're like at this thing, and he gives her this because what was interesting is towards the end, Hef kind of like let her be like do a lot more and like be more in control of things. Like when they would have like these other movie nights, she got to pick them every single time, and it was like all these people would be there, but she got to pick the movies, and she'd pick like The Little Mermaid, like just stuff like that. So then when he proposed to her, he gave her like this one of those like little jewelry boxes you lift up and then it spins around and sings. And he like gives her that, and it's of The Little Mermaid, and she's like, oh, he's actually paying attention to what I'm like. And then there's like a ring, and then she like puts it on. She's like, oh, I'm like getting married. And then she said like the show, it was going to be that, because I'm sure you remember when that was happening, they were like going to do I can't remember what they called it, but like getting married or whatever special. Mm-hmm. And so they're like planning this whole wedding for her. And she's like, this is crazy. He never even asked over doing this whole thing. And then she was talking about they still got that allowance. Like she was still getting that. I think she still said it was $1,000 a week. And she said she would go buy her stuff like she was supposed to. But then she was like putting money aside. And then it was like just a couple days before the wedding. And she like, they're at this movie night, and she's like, I have to go to the bathroom, I'll be back, and like goes to get the rest of her stuff. Like she's been slowly moving her stuff out.
Oh my god.
And she like goes, and she like gets in her car, and she goes to the security, and they're like, where are you going? And she's like, I'm just running to Walgreens to get tampons, you know, I'll be back. And they kind of like let it go, and she like went and moved in with, because in the meantime she met Dr. Phil's son. Yeah. And like went and moved in with him, and then like that of course didn't work out.
Him.
Of course it didn't work out. And then she like ran into somebody, and they're like, he misses you, like he still talks about you, and he was so sad. And she ends up like getting a hold of him and is like, can I come back? And she's like, I basically ran out of money, I broke up with that guy, I had nothing, so I like go back to him. And then they get married, like just that little wedding. And then and then at the end, what I thought was interesting too is I felt like she gave him like a lot of credit. Like she said at the end, he was getting really old and sick, and she was basically going through and like getting his stuff organized. And then then that's when she has gotten sick and stuff. And then he was like just old, and she like got him a walker, and she's like, I didn't say anything. I just set it in the room. And then she saw him later, and she's like, I got him it with a little basket so he could put his stuff in there. And then she's like, later she saw him like on it, but he didn't like say anything, but he just started like using it. And then she said when she started feeling better, she was like fully going through stuff. And she's like, they were starting to like bond, and like they would talk about stuff, and she got to know him a lot more. And then she said by that time she had her implants out, and she let her hair go back to brown. And she said he never said anything about it to her.
Yeah.
And was like fine with the way she looked. She's like, I don't know if he was just old and didn't care. He just was like happy to have this.
Yeah, maybe at that point he just wanted a companion.
Yeah, and like she's like, they spent a lot of time together. And then when they ended up doing the prenup, it was like a really bad deal for her, which is to be expected. But he still went and like had her like they bought a house with both their names on the deed, and like he got her, or like a condo or something, so that she would have something. And then he like did some other stuff. I can't remember what else he did, but so she wouldn't be left with nothing. She's like, it kind of surprised me that she was like so adamant about like, he's like, I want you to have this stuff. And then she's like, then she went on vacation with this guy, because she's like, they stopped being the like sex and stuff had stopped at that point. And she was like, went on vacation with this guy, and he didn't want her to go, but she went anyway. And then when she came back, he like got really sick. And then she was in charge of everything for him, like when it was
they were married.
Yeah. But then he ends up like, when they're like, okay, this is what we might do. And then he ends up like passing away.
Was his son, like, were his kids involved at all? Did she talk about that?
She said that the daughter, like they kept him like in the bed. Like he died in the bed, the famous bed. Oh, that's funny. But that they kept him there for a while, and the daughter came out.
Interesting.
But it was like, and I can't remember what she said about the sons and stuff, but she like wanted to come out and do this whole thing. And then she's like, I don't know, she kind of gave him a lot of grace and was like, I'm sure he had a very complicated relationship with his daughters or his kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, he had a complicated relationship with his parents. And it was actually.
That's interesting.
It was. And then when she like actually got to know him and stuff, but she said for a long time she didn't, because that's just the way he was. Like that whole spiel of whoever he was. But
that's kind of annoying, because when we heard what some of the sound bites from the book originally, it was about like the sex stuff.
Yeah, she definitely did talk about that.
Yeah, and it was almost like degrading.
That was salacious. Yeah, it was like the salacious version of the book, when that whole like, I'd say last fourth was her really giving him a lot of sympathy. And she said his death was really hard on her, because it was like, and her dad had passed away. And so it was like, she's like, I have just like a phobia of death and stuff. And she's like, and then all of a sudden I was in charge of this man, like, even though he ended up passing away. And she's like, I don't know. Like that stuff wasn't really put in the media, which I think was sad, because I think but that doesn't fit the agenda that Hugh Hefner was this horrible, evil man. And I'm not saying that he wasn't, but at the end, he wasn't. Yeah. He was taking care of her, and they actually had like a connection with each other. Well, in like a weird.
I definitely have like a soft spot for just old people. I think anyone with a heart does.
I know, like I actually was sad at the end. Like when she was talking about all that, I'm like, this is sad.
But it is sad because, regardless of what his life was, I know that he did things that weren't like great and stuff, and he did things that were bad and hurtful. But I wouldn't say he was the most evil man on the planet.
I know.
It's just sad because, it just to me always felt like he had to keep this up. Ruse, always.
Yeah. You can't be the loser old man now.
But like honestly, I think that if he would have retired.
Right.
And kind of, I mean, he already lived more of a like secluded life. Like, who would have known the difference?
Right.
Like, who would have known if like he and Holly did get married and then they just quietly like lived out a regular life.
Right.
Like, nobody's gonna be like, no one was keeping tabs of like who's coming in and what girls are coming in and out and like what Hef is doing.
Right.
But it's just the fact that he felt like he had to keep
and the
this
way
up.
he would like keep every newspaper clipping and all the journals. It was like
an obsession.
Yeah, like just being Hugh Hefner. And it was like he almost, at the end there, it's like he put in all that work for nothing.
Yeah. And
like, we're not talking about him in a legacy way. We're talking about him in like a little bit.
Yeah.
But
some people aren't.
Yeah,
you know?
they're like, ew. Or they don't even know about it. Yeah.
Like, I know, but it's just and that's where like, I'm glad that she did actually like help him, and to hear that like they did end up bonding is actually really sweet, because I think kind of what was portrayed was the opposite, like in the media.
Well, yeah, I agree. And I think even like Holly, like her perspective of it is going to be different because she wasn't there at the end of the life. But then when you actually get to hear like the end of somebody's life and how hard they work for it, and then for nobody to care, it was almost like this like, oh gosh. Yeah. Like you literally can't take it with you when you go.
I know. And I just think when you get older like that, like your dignity really does go.
I know.
And just the fact that like she, from what she's saying, like it seems like she was compassionate and to that. And like that is just nice to hear, because I just don't think that anybody should die
like alone. But it is sad though too, just to think like, thank goodness he had her.
Yeah.
Because of how he wanted to be perceived.
Yeah.
He almost didn't have anything at the end. Like, he didn't have anybody at the end.
Right.
But luckily he had, I mean, and this is all her perspective, but at least he had this person that like did care about him, and not in a romantic way, but cared about him and the
just
end of his life.
To, like,
go through his stuff and make sure. And she even said too, like, once she was the wife, she's like, I had a lot more control over stuff. And she's like, I knew some of the staff would like steal stuff from him, and I put like an end to he's like, she was like, I feel like he thought nobody could do that to him. And she's like, I went in and I just like took care of stuff and like got people out that weren't having the best interest for him. And she's like, it's like, I don't know, I kind of found that kind of admirable.
Well,
if it's all true, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that it is.
I know, she doesn't seem like a liar.
Because that just totally is not. And maybe it is because I would say just from when we were fans of like the Playboy stuff, it was with more Holly. And so when that kind of went south, like for me, I was kind of like, oh, well, who are these other girls?
I know. Yeah, I remember not wanting any. I remember trying to watch it. I'm like, these are not Holly, Bridget, and Kendra, because I mean they were good TV. Like they were cute, they were fun. They just
but it just
were good.
felt gross.
Like, I know. You're like, who are the replacements?
Yeah, like it felt to me that like the main three, our original Girls Next Door, like genuinely did care.
Yeah,
like in our perspective, and
it
then
looked
these
that way.
Yeah, and then these new girls were like just ones that wanted it. Like they were just,
and like the
there
twin
for sugar
thing
babies.
was weird. You know, it was all like a weird thing.
So that it is nice, and again, from her perspective, I hope that is the reality. But like it's nice to hear that, you know, our perception was wrong in this case,
right?
Or how
or at least
society kind of
right. And she I think that's an interesting thing, because it's like, if you look at her and she's with the older Playboy thing going on, and people would think she's just, and she was talking about like the way media would treat women then, and we've talked about that a lot, but she's like, they would ask me like just the worst questions, and she's like, what's the point, you know? But it's like, it does. I mean, she came across, like I said, very likable in the book, I thought, and very sympathetic character, and like a kind person. Like,
I find that really disappointing that it wasn't marketed that way.
I know.
Because, I mean, from things that I saw, it just, I mean, and I remember reading about it and even like snapping you and being like, this is ridiculous. Like, she's just looking for her 15 minutes after Hef is dead, because that's what they made it seem like. And I didn't read the book, and so I'm glad that you did.
I know. I would actually, because you didn't listen to Holly's or read Holly's or anything, I would actually recommend this one over that one for somebody who hasn't read either, just because I do think, I don't know, I just think it was like a more humanizing perspective, and I just think she came off well.
Well, also, when we said Holly was bitter, I mean, I think when she wrote that book too, she definitely was still hurt.
I know. I definitely do think she comes from a place of like hurt and like embarrassment, and just not even just with him, but I think just the way those girls were treated. I know, the way they were treated, and like just acting like they were dumb bimbos all the time. It's like,
well, and I mean, she wanted to marry him. Like, she genuinely,
I know. And she even like, in the book, I felt like she came across like she wanted to be his number one girlfriend and be more than that. And then when it wasn't happening, she felt like she had been tricked or like bamboozled, and then she was really hurt by it.
I mean, that's understandable. And then it really does suck to see. I mean, it's like when, you know, you break up with somebody and then they get married. It's like, ouch. Like, why wasn't that me? Like, that does hurt.
Well, for sure.
So I get it, but it is kind of more, I think it's more beneficial to read a book that's not from the scorned woman's perspective, because you do get more of the full picture.
And I think when Holly came out with her book, like, that's what we wanted to hear. We wanted to hear all the dirty details, because they were so secretive about the sex stuff, and to like fully hear it. And then
she was totally just like pulling back the curtain.
I know, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like, I do think I find it fascinating anyway. And then Crystal did talk about that stuff for sure, and it like paralleled Holly's. So it's like, okay, I can believe
that is what it is. Yeah.
But there was more in Crystal's that was, you know, because then she ended up actually getting to have that little bit of connection with them. But yeah, I thought it was good. I think she came off likable.
Did she read it?
She did. And she did pretty good. She actually read really fast. I had to actually turn the thing down a touch. I was like, this girl's
never happens.
Every once in a while I'll come across that. I'm like, whoa, slow
down. That's funny.
Anywho.
Do you want to talk about OC a little bit? I wrote like a million notes, but I don't want to go over it. I just don't want to forget anything. Do you want to talk high level?
Yeah, let's just touch on some of it, because
the main things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll go from the top, just because the top is the biggest thing. It was Shannon's drinking, and they're basically showing the flashbacks from the season before, and then they show the picture and talk about the news headlines and all that stuff, and everybody's having conversations with her, yada yada. And then I think the thing that annoys me too, and they did this twice, and it was talking about, I think it was talking about Shannon both times. The first time when it was like Tamara, Jen and Emily at the gym, and then when they were going to Heather's party, and it was Gina and that new girl, Katie, in the car. And it's like I know that we genuinely do this with friends, where we're like, oh, did you hear what happened with blah, blah, blah? Or like if you were coming to a party with like and you weren't part of the friend group, I'd probably be like, hey, just so you know, this is what we're walking into. But when the audience already knows what's going on, when they're recapping it takes me out of it a little bit.
I know we used to always do that formula, but we don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I know where you guys are going. If you guys want to be like, I wonder how Shannon's going to be when we get there.
Yeah.
That's one thing, but it's like, you didn't see any of the headlines or anything.
I know.
You didn't do any research when you're coming onto the show for the first time. It's like, it's just so, like, those setups are so stupid now. They're so unnecessary.
And it's just like we said, we see right through it, you know? And even when the 3 girls were talking at the gym, like, I know, okay, that could be like a genuine conversation. Right. When they're just like, hey, what's going on with Shannon? Like, did you hear? But just how they kind of set it all up.
I know, and
it just feels so...
I know, it feels so disingenuous. Like, all right, let's go. Like, I don't know.
And I feel it more, we said this all last season too, but like Tamra, I just think, I just don't feel like there's a place for her here anymore in the reality TV sphere of Housewives. Yeah, because she just is constantly stirring the pot. She constantly is thinking about like what's going to be good for the shot. Right. Like even with her intro thing where, you know, they show all the flashes of everybody. It's like she had to do this like stupid, corny sex thing with Eddie. And it's like, I don't believe that you guys are these hot and heavy sexual creature. Like there's literally not one thing about the two of you that makes me feel that way. Right. And when I was listening to Turtle Time, like Amy even said that. She's like, oh, Tamara's pretending that she and Eddie have sex all the time. It's like, we're not.
I know, and
everybody sees it.
I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast or we're talking amongst each other, but it's just so tropey and like dumb.
Yes.
It's like, you're not proving anything. Like we all know every relationships have up and downs. Yeah. It's physical stuff. It's like, okay, whatever. You guys do it 30 times a day.
And it's like the like games that they'll play. Like I know that's gonna come up at some point this season with like, oh yeah, well, what's the craziest position you like? We go.
Have you had a threesome?
Yeah, like oh come on. Like I've never once been with a group of girls where we've gone around and been like, what's the like craziest place you've
believe
ever...
it or not, we can talk about other things.
Like I've never ever done that. Like the only time like I've had anything that was remotely like that was on a bachelorette party. Right. And that's to be expected on a bachelorette. But like we don't go to lunch and discuss our sexual conquests.
Maybe we should.
Maybe we should. Maybe we're just lame.
Maybe we're the problem. No, it's just like lame. Like it's like, what do you have to prove? Like I don't believe you. Anything like that is not true. And
like Eddie's in bed with those freaking air boots on. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm doing it for me.
Oh, but anyway, back to like the Shannon thing. They're just all catching up on it, and there's some parts like we talked about this over the weekend, but like where it's feeling a little mean girly, like on some of the confessionals, like Emily kind of went in on like this huge thing with Archie, and like that wasn't funny. No. Like I honestly, like I thought that was, when I heard that the dog was in the car, I was like, oh my God, like that's horrific. Like that wasn't funny. Like 10 and 2 shit.
I know, like
what are you doing?
I know,
Did you think that was going to land?
Like, it didn't. Sorry. And it's like, what Jenna did obviously was inexcusable. Horrible. But it's like, why do we it's just like, it's so boring to do the let's gang up on one person because they have, like Heather McDonald says, the stink on them. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to be around them. Well, they're a bad person.
Yeah, like we said, I felt like these women do not have genuine relationships with Shannon.
They're so quick.
Yes, they are. I mean,
and do I believe Shannon is exhausting? Yes.
Absolutely, I do. But you know what? And as annoying as sometimes Shannon is, and I wrote this down about both Shannon and Tamra, that they are emotionally immature and they both use their children to like emotionally stabilize them, which is really frustrating to watch. But even though that is all true, I actually do think that Shannon is a good housewife. Like
and it's like I don't even particularly like love Shannon, but I'm not gonna watch a season of ganging up on somebody.
Shannon. Yeah, like, but Shannon, even though she can be kind of erratic too and a little loopy sometimes, like I think she is herself. On the show.
Yeah, I think she's just as neurotic on and off.
Yeah, so that is kind of what makes her more endearing.
Right.
Versus, you know, somebody like Tamra. We've talked about that at length. But even when Tamra's like, you know, I know that we would genuinely do this. Like if I saw my friend who just got a DUI and all this stuff was sneaking liquor into their Diet Coke, like I would tell you about that too.
Right.
But it's just when Tamra does it, it's so performative and so like, I got her.
Yep.
You know, and it's like if that situation was you and I, like, I would not be spreading that stuff about you because you're my friend.
I know. When I was watching this episode, I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're going to all sit here. And again, I'm not saying all of them had DUIs. So it's like, we're all going to sit here and act like you aren't drinking. Yeah,
or just even like you've never done anything that you realized was a bad decision.
Right. It's like you're going to sit there and act like...
Yeah,
I mean, it was throw the alcoholic allegations out there, like no problem.
I don't think that Shannon is a drunk, as she kept saying. I don't think that. Do I think that she has had a complicated and unhealthy relationship with alcohol, especially with the whole John Jansen thing? Yeah, I do, and obviously this was a culmination of that. But you know, I don't think that she's this horrible person and that they kind of paint her out to be. The one thing that I was thinking when she like rehashed the situation and she's like, I drove to John's house and we got in this fight and blah, blah, blah. And then I was trying to prove myself and was mad and what all that. I was like, but so you drove to his house under the influence too.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't good.
No, like that's not, and I don't know the distance. I don't know where she was, but it's still like,
I know.
Yeah, it's awful. Like there's literally no.
I know.
But I don't know. I guess it's just, I like how, I hope that with the beginnings of where like the conversations with the daughter, the conversation with the lawyer, where he's like, all you can do is try to bring awareness and move forward from this and learn and help other people. Like, I hope that can be more of the tone. And I hope that, like, Tamra probably is going to be going at her all the time, which we've seen from the preview clips. So I hope that the other women don't bandwagon.
I know, which I'm sure they will, because they don't like each other. They're not friends.
I know. Like, they really... And, I mean, yeah, Shannon... Everything with John Jansen last year, too. Like, she really did kind of isolate herself a little bit.
I know. And it's like... I know she's, an older woman. But sometimes you do get in those relationships that just make you go crazy.
For sure. Yeah,
and I feel like that's... When someone's already neurotic and then there was somebody...
It's a recipe for disaster.
And it's like it all makes sense. And it makes sense that now Alexis and John Jansen are in this great relationship because that happens all the time too. Where you are in a toxic one and then they get with someone new and everything's perfect. So it's like...
Yeah. I do think to go and just kind of finish the Shannon conversation with like the conversation with Alexis at the end. I do think that Shannon... is not wanting to admit that him moving on is the thing that's bothering her.
I know. I think when Alexis was like, "Oh, come on, this is what this is about," I'm like, "Yeah, you're not wrong."
Like it is. I mean, and I actually did a deep dive into the case, the defamation lawsuit that Jim Bellino brought against Tamra and Shannon. And did you remember, because I forgot about this, that Heather McDonald was actually named in it as well because it happened on her podcast.
Yeah.
Or it was, I think, a live show.
Yes.
And she was involved, and then that got thrown out for her. And then actually for Shannon, it ended up getting dropped too. And he had to pay her like $138,000 or something. So she did allegedly, I don't know how much she actually did get back from him, but apparently he did have to pay. And then I don't think he did for Tamra, because Tamra was the one that really spewed the most off.
Which is what she does.
Yeah, all the time.
Well, that's interesting that Shannon's making it like she lost all this.
I know, that's what I thought too, because I fully went through.
Which you did initially, I guess.
But she got about half of it back, which is still a significant amount to lose for sure. But yeah, you're conveniently not bringing up that you were awarded a sum back. But and then when I tried to look up to see if cease and desists were a public record and if I could see like if Alexis actually did, which I don't know if I believe, because why would she want to be involved in that? Like, and she wasn't even mentioned in it. It was just him, and they were divorced. So I don't really know, but I would like to see proof of record for that. But I couldn't. It's not public record unless it is fully involved with a court case, which if it came from, like if Jim sent the cease and desist, it probably would have been in with the documents about defamation, but it wasn't. So just, legally, I went through and did the work so our listeners don't have to, as if anybody cares. But I did think that the amount of money that they spent on that was wild.
I know. If they were being honest about like $500,000.
That's crazy.
That would, whew.
I mean, obviously that would fully bankrupt me. I've never
in the red
seen that
way
much.
Before that.
Yeah. I would just let it happen. I'd be like, just put me to jail. I can't afford this. Yeah. What do you think about the Johnny J rebrand? Because when she said it, all I could think of was like, hey, it's my Johnny J, and he's gonna take care of me. And it was this weird, like, shtick of, like,
I don't know.
Like a weird, like, West Side Story. Like, I don't know. I thought that was bizarre.
It was.
Do you remember how horrible Jim Bellino was, though, to Alexis? Like, he was so
I know. I was thinking about that in the pep. I know. He was
awful. Like, he was a scary man, honestly.
He was.
Like, to see him on the show.
Deranged.
Yeah.
So when it's like you find out that he had this new lawsuit, it's like, yeah, that sounds about on brand.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know. Apparently, we're going to find out a lot about Jim Jansen. Or John Jansen. Jesus, why do I keep messing that up? Johnny J. Apparently more is going to come out about him, but I don't know. Him and Alexis seem to be like two little peas in a pod.
I know.
Maybe they really were just like meant for each other.
I know they might be.
I thought it was...
It's like a Slade...
Yeah, Gretchen situation. I thought the editing was funny when... there was twice when Alexis was brought on the scene where Heather had said ho, and then literally the next cut was Alexis. I'm like, these producers are doing her so dirty. Like, what is up with that? But it did make me laugh. And then
I actually had forgotten that there was interaction with Heather and Alexis. Like,
me too.
It almost seems like two different OC eras.
Oh, you mean like back in the day? Yeah, I know. And they did that flashback.
I was like, oh, that's right. I don't know. It just didn't feel right.
I know it felt, I mean, it was a completely different time,
I know.
But it really did feel like it. But to speak on what I said about them, Tamra and Shannon being emotionally immature, like those scenes with their daughters, I'm just like, can we please normalize not using our children, especially mothers and their kids, it's because it typically is mothers, for your emotional fulfillment. Like Shannon there with all her daughters, and they all have to be building her back up.
I know.
That's not the role.
No.
And then Tamra with her daughter Sophia, who, I mean, I don't know why she's, maybe just to make money, but it does not seem like she wants to be on this show at all.
I don't know if Tamra had to convince her. Just do
a
couple of things so you can show that I'm not
the worst mom ever.
And then she's still not talking to the other daughter then, or they are talking?
No, she's not talking to Sydney. And I did a huge dive on Simon Barney's Instagram. And I don't think that Tamra and Simon were good for each other at all. I mean, and I just remember
that in that limo, that scene in the limo where she's
I want a divorce.
Yeah. I was like, oh, and they got a divorce.
Yeah. But like and obviously it's just Instagram, but like he really has not been in the public eye. His Instagram is literally like a normal dad.
And he stayed friends with Gina, and then Tamra threw the drink in her face, and that was nasty.
And Vicky is actually follows him on Instagram. She popped up.
Yeah, I remember her talking about him like way back in the day too, like still being friends with him.
Yeah, but it is interesting because like he would like post both the daughter, and he wouldn't post the son as much, so I don't really know what the deal is with the son. But yeah, he would post them as if they were like normal, but he was like wealthy and they were living an Orange County life. And then Simon, which I didn't really realize, but he went through throat cancer treatment like a few years ago, and I think he's doing okay now. And then there would be like comments from back when things were okay, where Tamra would like comment on a picture that he would post to the girls or something, and like he would never comment back. I'm like, geez, but can you, and I know it's really hard for Tamra, like she's like, it's like my daughter's dead but she's still alive. Like I cannot even imagine how difficult that is. At the same time, I can't imagine having a mother like Tamra, who is on this reality show, really not showing the best version of herself, and the fact that she cheated on my dad. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know. I think I would have a difficult time with that situation too.
I know, and I don't know what she's like behind closed doors, but I mean, we see her fly off the handle a lot.
Right. The other thing that I thought was interesting was the stuff with Travis and Gina. What did you think about that?
Not to bring up the Rachel Bilson podcast thing again, but that was not
at all
the portrayal of their relationship. And obviously you just go through hard times and stuff, but it just makes me wonder, like, were they actually going through a hard time?
Well, and I don't think that she would say because she was very tight-lipped on the podcast. Like, I doubt she would be like,
but she was all like, yeah, me and my ex and then his new wife, I mean, the four of us, we just all worked this out together, and we're just blah 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 blah. It was like not portraying that she was thinking about leaving.
I felt so bad for him. Like, he looked like he was gonna cry.
You know, like, where's this coming from?
I know, but like, also, this is what's kind of frustrating, because like we just said with the Jenn Pedranti thing, it's expensive out there.
Right.
Together they have 6 kids, plus the 2 of them, that's 8, plus they have at least 1 dog. That's a lot. I mean, that's a huge house that you're going to need. And the kids are getting older. Like she said, they're going to want their own space. You can't have like bunk beds with freaking 4 kids in a room.
I think it was when I was listening to Watch What Crappens, but they brought up the point that Gina you know, or when Heather was like, you can't emotionally put all that on Travis.
Oh, but now his baggage is a problem.
And all of a sudden, she, like, can't be bothered.
Yeah, I know.
This is too much for me.
I thought that exact same thing, because she's like, it's the kids and Travis's baggage. Really, all last year it was
you were giving all
and
your
look
baggage.
at all the stuff that she went through with her ex. Like, hello, like I would say that's probably worse than whatever he's going through with his. But like, they've been together for years. They have this blended family. I really don't think that it is fair to now just say we're gonna live separately but still be together.
Wild.
Yeah, and also just thinking solely about the kids. Like,
and then it's like, is this like a storyline thing or is this real? Like, it's just weird.
And I kept thinking too, have the kids mentioned that this is hard for them? Right. Is that where it's?
Or is
but
it
she
like
doesn't want to say it
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that.
He seemed really upset about it, and I felt bad for him, and I didn't know what to think. And then we kind of already talked about the Jenn thing, but Ryan also at that dinner, he does not seem to be his dick pic self this season. He seems to be a bit
because he got drugged through the mud
about how terrible he is.
So he's the worst. Like,
he's now this season, he's like, I'm not gonna say much, and it's only gonna be positivity.
And that's what's tough about the reality show thing. It's like, if you come across bad, then you change the next season. And it's like, that's not that authentic.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a weird thing, but like, I also don't blame them.
Me either. And also was what we saw last season, him putting on a show.
Right.
Like, we don't know what his real persona is.
It's like, yeah, you can be a little over the top sometimes, you know? And then when you're actually reflectively seeing yourself do that, maybe that was
you
like
want to change. And I mean, this is the first time we saw him, so maybe he'll be
change a little
more up to his antics. But it was just so crazy. Like, he was listening. He wasn't being like bringing up.
I know. And maybe that's what some people need. It's like to have like that. People let you know, like, no, you are not great.
This is disgusting and cringy. Right. But I thought that she was completely valid of, I don't want to move in with you because what if I have to start over again and it doesn't work out? And like, she is thinking of her kids too, because like, that's a huge, like, that would be really hard.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to say was that I wish that we had a friend like Heather Dubrow, and I thought it was really rude how these women were like, it's work to go to a Heather Dubrow party.
I know, that's what I was telling you in the car when we were talking about it. I'm like, shut up.
And then with the martini, the espresso
when
martini.
she spit it out.
Emily spit it. It's like, are you kidding me?
I know, and the whole...
Yeah. What is that?
And I'm like, I'm sorry, did you not see that when you picked it up, or was it already congealing?
Yeah, or just like, if that, like, I've been in situations where, you know, that's happened, something similar has happened, or you eat something and it does not taste how you thought, and you literally just like swallow it, or if it's that bad, you find a napkin and you be discreet. Like, do these women have no manners?
I know. Well, and it's like, I don't know. You're getting paid to go to somebody's fancy party. Like, get over it.
It's a beautiful party.
I know. Like, just sit there and do it. Like, you're getting paid.
I would freaking love if a friend threw a party. They had tarot card readers. They had permanent jewelry. They had all the custom drinks. Oh, and when, I know that Gina's sober, but when she said, can I have a sugar-free Red Bull? Like, I had a visceral reaction. And then when it was poured in that glass and she was drinking it through a straw, like, the smell of Red Bull sickens me to my core. And seeing it in that form, like, literally, like, I couldn't even look at it on this. Like, who would choose to drink that? I
tired?
I could not fathom it. Like, at that nice party, though, just get a water. I'm sure she had still and sparkling.
No, people will do anything not to drink water. They will drink
I
anything.
love water.
I know. Like some of the things people do, I'm like, just drink it,
For
dude.
God's
My
sake,
gosh.
put a lemon in it and get over it. And that was like pretty much the high points, whatever. I mean, we'll see how things go. I hope that it's kind of fun and not just a gang up on. That Katie girl tried to make a name for herself by like throwing that dig at Heather. And I'm like, if you dare come at Heather Dubrow, she has been through enough. Don't.
I know, I can't believe she was talking to any of this woman after last season.
She should. I know. I think that she and Terry, I think Terry is like a real genuine, like he's a good house husband. He's like the kind of husband I want to see on the show.
I agree. Yeah, I
Like,
actually think they like have a genuine
relationship.
Yeah.
Me too. Like I'd like them together. Okay. Should we wrap it up?
Sure.
All right. Well, I already said my recommendation. It's going to be the Smartless podcast. Check it out. It's interesting.
I will recommend. Well, I got these. They were popular a long time ago where they look like a little like corkscrewy thing or like a little thing that you twist in your hair.
Oh, yeah.
And then hold them in. And I have to wear my hair up for work. And I've been kind of over like the claw clip thing. So I'm like, oh, and I had one left. I'm like, that's why I stopped wearing them. So I ordered new ones. And I've been using them. And it's just so nice because it's not heavy on your hair.
Are you using it with a hair tie or no?
No.
Oh, wow.
It came with 3 of them, but I have 4 technically. So I've had to use all 3. But yeah, I just twist it up. It's light. No strain. If I get in a car accident, I'm going to break my neck.
I know, with the claw clips.
I literally get nervous.
I take mine out.
I know. Well, sometimes I'll like kind of like do this and move to the side.
Or smush it kind of. Yeah.
But I'm like, but I would recommend just trying that if you have to wear your hair up, or even because you can like still put your hair in like a bun on top of your head, or like just like a little bun.
Yeah, send me the links. I can put it in.
They were like $6, so steal.
And is it? Well, by the time this comes out, I think Amazon Prime Day will be over. But sorry, I'm sure it'll go on sale.
$6.
Okay, well, don't forget also to follow along with our book club and read hits, flops, and I can't remember the end of it. I'm so sorry, Edswick, but it's linked in there. You know it. And thanks for listening. Make sure to follow us on everything and tell a friend. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.